But I think the development of full artificial intelligence will spell the end of the human race.
It's a flying object, and we don't know what it is. I would hope somebody is checking it out.
I don't know whether rockets or whatever, but incredibly fast, opposite direction. They were too fast to be an airplane.
I'm glad the Pentagon is looking at this, because if it poses a threat, I want them on top of it.
Well, the craft generates its own gravitational field.
You said there's lights in the sky?
The internet has become the command center for criminals and terrorists.
911, what's your emergency? I need help, please help!
Aliens won't let it happen. You know, that's what we're instructed to say.
Roswell, Area 51. Alien kept deep under the ground.
Self-serving. You're here for a reason. You're listening to Troubled Minds Radio.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest. Into the digital darkness. Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. What's going on, guys? Happy Monday, happy holidays, all the things you celebrate. I hope they're well. I hope everybody's well. And, well, good season's tidings to you wherever it finds you. And well, this is a weird show. This is a strange show. This is an odd show. This is the show where we get together Monday through Thursday and we talk about all the things we're not allowed to talk about. You know what they are? Aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. And well, as part of the upside down, we talk about all of that and more because there's a whole lot to talk about, isn't there? The more you consider the news cycles, the more you consider propaganda the way it is, the more you consider the fact that even though, I don't know, let's say in the late 60s, early 70s, they say that a Viking lander actually found evidence of life on Mars. But it's been suppressed, it's been debunked, it's been shelved, it's been swept under the rug. And so there are some of us who are, let's say, is suspicious the right word? I'm not sure suspicious is the right word. Let's just go with that. Suspicious. I think that's a good idea, especially including in the UFO community. It doesn't even matter who you ask, does it? Some people are really with the game and considering that the government has been helping us out or not for 75 years. Other propagandists will tell you that this, that, or the other thing is correct regarding UFOs and alien life. And, well, me, I am just suspicious. I'm just suspicious. I don't subscribe to most people's way of thinking because, by the way, I'm an individual. Hi, I'm an individual. And I hope you are too. Just because the herd tells you to think this way or that way doesn't mean you necessarily have to. By all means, if that's your thing. But it's also one of those things where you don't have to go with the herd. I can cite numerous quotes by all kinds of people that say exactly that. But I think it's unnecessary because we got a smart group here. We have a smart crew that is doing the thing and hanging out and considering all the possibilities. And that's what this is about. It's about considering all the possibilities. And so as we do all of that, right, we get together again Monday through Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific, to talk about all the wild things, okay? But all the wild things tonight, well, they seem to be a mixture of wild things, which we'll get to in a moment. So hang tight for that. Before we get there, I want to tell everybody, and everybody mostly knows this, unless you're new, we have new people finding us every day, so I feel like I got to explain. No, too much, let me sum up, all right? We do this live to include you. We've always done this live to include you, and as a result, it's turned into something magnificent, something beautiful, where people come together to share their ideas, and their ideas not just on propaganda, but also on, philosophical speculations. And for instance, tonight we're going to be talking about the shadow biome, a shadow biosphere. And if you don't know what that is, perfect. You're in the right place. We're going to get to that. But the point of me bringing all that up is that I have no inside sources. I just read news cycles just like you do. I am a victim of the technocratic algorithmic manipulation, and I'm just trying to figure out what's right and what's true anymore. And that's what this is about. And I'm saying that because I have no inside sources, but the secret weapon of this show is you. And as a result of that, we do it live. And if you want to be part of the show tonight, it's my long-winded way of saying, well, give us a call. You can reach the show at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. Just click the Discord link at troubledminds.org. That's the official website. And Discord is a chat client, a voice client, totally free. And lots of people hanging out in that Discord around the clock, sharing ideas and just being good to each other. That's another one of the underlying themes of this show is just be good to each other. It's not that hard, even though I know all the political talking heads are telling us we should hate our neighbors. That's what they're telling us. They're telling us how dare people think differently than you, right? How dare people think differently than us? How dare they? How dare they? How dare they? Well, I think a little differently. I think that kind of like George Orwell said, well, we shouldn't really betray each other as human beings. We should want to understand, want to talk, want to consider things, want to maybe take humanity to the next level in terms of actual acceptance, actual diversity being a strength. And, well, that's what we're here to do. And if you want to be part of the show, you know how to do that. Please, troubledminds.org is the official website. Find the phone number and the Discord link there. All right. With that said, couple quick things, and then we'll get to the shadow biome. Now, we have also another Discord running at, fringe.fm/chat. See how I do that? I got all these things locked in my memory, and I struggle getting them out sometimes. Fringe.fm/chat will give you another invite to the Fringe Discord, and I'm watching all of them, watching all the things, trying to keep up with all the chat in all the places. And we are streaming. I can't see what I did. breathlessly slow down, Mike. It's okay. We've got time. It's okay, Mike. We've got time. Slow down. All right. So we have fringe.fm/chat, and there's another Discord there. I'm watching that chat as well. Please join that. And one last final thing before I tell you where we're streaming and we continue with the show tonight is the easiest way to listen to Troubled Minds is to download the Fringe app. Go to in any of your favorite app stores, Apple or Android, and you can download it for free. Just smash the play button at approximately 7:05 Pacific time, Monday through Thursday, and you get me. You get Troubled Minds. You get this community. You get the amazing people that call in and are part of this show. All right, so let's see. I got that. I'm not selling any books, so don't worry about that. I got this. Just kidding. All right, so let's move on, shall we? Let's get to this shadow biome. Now, what actually kind of triggered this thought in my head was I was scrolling through Twitter, just kind of checking the news for hashtag UFO Twitter. What's up, guys? UFO Twitter. Half of them hate me, half of them are perplexed by me, and like one person out there is like, yeah, Troubled Minds. But that's okay. It's not a popularity contest anyway. So the thing is this, though. I was kind of cruising UFO Twitter, and UFO Joe yesterday was just kind of posting some holiday musings, he was calling them. And he had one in there. where he had a tweet quoting Dr. Eric Davis. Eric Davis. Now, Dr. Eric Davis, of course, is one of those guys that is very, very deep into the UFO scene. And we're talking probably black budget projects UFO scene, that deep, okay? And one of the things that he had actually put in there is that something that caught my attention was Dr. Eric Davis was discussing in an interview with Stephen Greenstreet that they're like, well, I think they asked him his actual take on UFOs, on what he thinks they are, right? And he said it's likely, I don't have the quote here, I'll pull it up, I'll find it in a sec when I get some more time. Running a little bit behind, had some technical issues, so that's why I'm breathlessly trying to get through this like it's going to catch anything up, but let's just remain calm and stay in the pocket, Michael Strange. But okay, so the thing is that, right, he mentioned that he had this theory, Dr. Eric Davis, that, and many people know him in the UFO community, right, and some people are like, he's the guy, if anybody would know, he would know, famous for that Wilson Davis documents with the meeting with the Admiral Wilson back in 2004, I believe, where they discussed these black budget projects in a parking lot here in Las Vegas, just south of the Vegas airport. And well, anyway, so he really goes deep. He was a consultant for TTSA, which is To the Stars Academy, which at the time was featuring Lou Elizondo, Chris Mellon, still Tom DeLonge is running that outfit. But Eric Davis, again, is really, really deep into this stuff. And some people claim that if anybody knows anything about UFOs and what they are, it's that guy. All right. And what he speculated in this quote that I'll find shortly, and I'm paraphrasing here, but what he said was that if there are entities out there flying these things, maybe they do not actually live in the same space we do. Meaning that it wasn't from Alpha Centauri or wherever the heck you want to point to in the sky and say it's out there. It's not. It's right here. Right here. Maybe in this very room with me right now. Maybe in my bunker right now, underground in this weird spot out in the desert. Right? Maybe. And what we mean by that is he said that it's possible that these entities live in something called a shadow biome. A shadow biome, all right? And I thought, what in the world does that actually mean? And so I started digging. And wouldn't you know it? A shadow biome is a scientific term. And a shadow biome actually is speculated that us here on planet Earth, there may be an entire other group of life forms that are just not classified in the traditional way that we classify life as human beings. And so let's get to that. Let's get to that. So that's what got me thinking in this term today. And so there was, again, an old interview by Dr. Eric Davis, shared by our good friend UFO Joe Murgia. You can find him at ufojoe.net. And just like to give credit where credit is due for inspiring things. And by the way, speaking of that, Clyde Lewis actually did an actual old show called Tales from the Shadow Biosphere. So let's shout them out as well. But okay, so thing is this, right? I started looking this, and then just before we start, of course, wouldn't you know it, Night Stalker Johnny on the spot sends this into the Discord. And let me read this quote. Now, this is pretty hot right here. He says this. Let's see. Just a moment, please. All right. New video from Jeremy Corbell with this description. UFOs is a very small aspect of a much larger phenomenon. This idea that what we're seeing are machines from other planets, I'm unconvinced. What we may be seeing is an alternate reality. There seems to be another version of reality that is occurring, and that, once in a while, they perforate and they pop through into our reality. And this is not just from a cursory look at the UFO phenomenon. This is from talking with thousands of close encounter eyewitnesses who tell me that this is something bigger than just flying machines. To give you an example, at Skinwalker Ranch, the report is that a piece of the sky opened up like a tear. And out of this tear came beings, entities, right? So UFOs is a symptom. It's part of this alternate reality, but it's not just about UFOs. UFOs represent this phenomenon. And so, well, there it is. Just Johnny on the spot. Derek in Massachusetts, the Night Stalker, had no idea I was about to do this particular show, but as usual, he's tuned in, and somehow maybe remote mute. Hear what I did? Remote viewed me. And pluck this out of the ether just before we begin tonight. And so we'll begin here. We'll begin with this, all right? UFO, this is from Tweaktown. UFO investigator claims U.S. government is hiding vital information. And yep, an unidentified flying object investigator claimed the U.S. government is hiding information as on UFOs as sightings increase worldwide. And not only did that, we have that quote from Jeremy Corbell. I've got some more in this particular article he did. But here we go. We'll read just a little bit of this, and then we'll move on to what a shadow biome is, shadow biosphere. And actually, by the way, before we do that, let's read the phone number again, 702-957-1037. Love to hear your thoughts on this. All right, here we go. Tweaktown. An investigative filmmaker has appeared in an interview to discuss how the U.S. government is reportedly hiding information on UFOs from the public. We've talked about that quite a lot. It's not very exciting, other than, well, UFO or government transparency, right? Government transparency is the thing. Hold on, let me see, make sure we've got, all right, I think we're okay. All right, anyway, trying to make all of this work on a new workflow, and it's not working. All right, anyway, here we go. So Jeremy Corbell appeared on Fox News Primetime following a showcase of the recent UFO sightings video obtained and released by TMZ. And this is just from December 17th. This is just a couple days ago. Corbell states that UFO sightings have increased from both the public and the military, and that no one can confirm if the flying objects are extraterrestrial. But there is a universal concern for objects of unknown origin flying in restricted U.S. airspace. We've heard all this before. Blah, blah, blah. But the combination of these two things, these statements, and that UFO Joe thread on Twitter, which I'll pull up and share in a little while as well here. You guys know me. I do like to share my sources. And, internet sources, I don't have any insider sources. Don't get me wrong on that. But the thing is if there is this cover-up of, well, let's say epic proportions in the sense of UFOs, in the sense of possible entities that are from somewhere else. Well, we keep looking up at the sky. We keep considering that the stars out there is maybe where this comes from. But what if it's not at all? What if, like that quote from Night Stalker, really, and said by Jeremy Corbell, is what this is all about? Is that the UFOs are not anything of this earth at all, or even of this universe, let's say. Let's say they're from somewhere else. But we've talked about this in the past. We talked about this on the Multiverse show not too long ago, last week even, where is it possible to occupy the same space as something else, including maybe ourselves in a multiverse simulation sort of thing? And, and now you see where we're headed with this. So we're going to get to that tonight, including, let's do that. Anyway, love to hear your thoughts on this. I'm trying to get this workflow set up. I'm trying to move everything around in my office here, and it's just not working. It's just not working. Sometimes the old way is the best way of doing things. All right, there we go. Let's just do that. All right, so anyway, what we're going to do tonight is talk about this idea of what's known as a shadow biosphere. All right, the term that Dr. Eric Davis used was shadow biome, but this is what he's talking about. Not just this, but in particular, that idea of an interdimensional entity traveling through the same space we occupy, just sort of pops through reality, just boop, pops through, right? And is suddenly here. And everybody's seen or heard of the idea of a shadow person, right? And you look out of the corner of your eye and they are no longer there. So it makes me wonder, all right? It makes me wonder, not just with this, but with many, many other things, is if there's something going on out there has to do with what is known as a shadow biome. And shadow biosphere, yep, we're going to get to that. Just one moment, fixing my my setup here. Okay, I want to make sure I see the phone calls if they come in. So, all right, so here we go. This is straight from Wikipedia. I like to call them the Ministry of Truth for obvious reasons, because anybody can edit Wikipedia, by the way. Did you know this? Just Just saying. So this is redacting history in real time because people are more likely to Wikipedia something than actually go to, an old school book or an encyclopedia sort of thing. Anyway, shadow biosphere is a hypothetical microbial biosphere of Earth that would use radically different biochemical and molecular processes from that of currently known life. Although life on Earth is relatively well studied, if a shadow biosphere exists, it may still remain unnoticed because the exploration of the microbial world targets primarily the biochemistry of the macroorganisms. All right. And what they're talking about here, of course, is microorganisms, tiny things. We've talked about the quantum world before quite often, but that's not what we're saying here. We're saying chemical elements that go unnoticed because they don't consider them forms of life. All right. And in those terms, if there's that going on and maybe there's actually life here on Earth, and not just life here on Earth, life as we never expected it to be, then we have a problem, do we not? I think we have a problem. And that's what's on my mind tonight. That's where we get, that's a settle in, Mike, get in the pocket, it's okay. You're not late, you're right on time. Everything's right on time. And so that's what's going on here. The hypothesis is this. I'm going to let us chew on this for a second, and then we'll take a break and come back. And if you guys have thoughts on this, love to take your phone calls and hear your thoughts. But here we go. The hypothesis is this. It has been proposed that the early Earth hosted multiple origins of life, some of which produced chemical variations on life as we know it. Stephen A. Benner, Alonzo Ricardo, and Matthew A. Kerrigan, biochemists at the University of Florida, argued that if organisms based on RNA once existed, they might still be alive today. Unnoticed because they do not contain ribosomes, which are usually used to detect living microorganisms. They suggest searching for them in environments that are low in sulfur, environments that are spatially constrained, for example, minerals with pores smaller than 1 micrometer, or environments that cycle between extreme hot and cold. Other proposed candidates for the shadow biosphere include organisms using different suites of amino acids in their proteins or different molecular units based on sugars in their nucleic acids. Having a having a chirality, I don't know what that word is, opposite of ours, biopolymers. Carol Cleland, a philosopher of science at the University of Colorado Boulder, argues that desert varnish, whose status as biological or non-biological has been debated since the time of Darwin, should be investigated as a potential candidate for a shadow biosphere. Existence of a shadow biosphere could mean that that life has evolved on Earth more than once, which means that microorganisms may exist on Earth which have no evolutionary connection with any other known form of life. And so, of course, when you start considering, all right, maybe that's possible, scientists have suggested this as an alternate way of thinking in regards to not just, well, what we're doing with life on Earth, but how about evolution itself? And then it got me thinking, of course, because this is Troubled Minds after all, what about those shadow people? What about those entities that may step through some sort of, well, portal, I guess, for lack of a better word, that pop through maybe something like at Skinwalker Ranch, that maybe phase in and out like maybe the UFOs that people describe as sort of being there, blurry, hard to decipher exactly what it was, and then poof, they're gone. Well, wouldn't this sort of explain a whole lot of all of it? And that's what's on my mind tonight. What are your thoughts on this? And okay, you can slow down, Mike. It's always been my bugaboo, is just going a little bit too fast for myself. Just slow down, Mike. It's okay. There's no problem here. But all right, so that's what we're going to do tonight. We're going to talk about this shadow biome, this shadow biosphere, but how also does it relate to, I don't know, maybe the DMT machine elves, if you guys have heard of that? How does it relate to, oh, I don't know, maybe shadow people? How does it relate to all of these things? Is this related, or is this, well, too confusing to relate to anything at all? And that's okay if it is, because after all, this is Troubled Minds. And I am your host, Michael Strange. And we do something here called Drinking the Maybe Juice. And so let's consider tonight that if there's a shadow biosphere of sorts, right here under our noses. What else might there be right here under our noses? 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. Don't go anywhere. More about shadow biospheres and you when we return. Be right back. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter. And we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. And tonight, we're talking about Mickey Mouse. No, I'm totally kidding. We're talking about the shadow biosphere. And what does that mean? And we're going to get to that. It could mean a lot of things, couldn't it? And if you want to be part of the show tonight, I'd love to hear what you think. It's 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. And let's do it. Let's go to some phone calls. Let's see. All right. You know how you get that, like, who moved my cheese effect, you know? You ever read that old corporate book back in the day? You know, where you kind of, when something changes, like everything's changed. My desk setup changed. Everything's a little bit different. And it's just slightly different, right? So everything's not exactly where it used to be. So I guess you could say I'm sort of in a shadow biome right this moment. So there you go. So I don't know what's actually going on other than I'm phasing as we speak. Maybe that's what's going on. Phasing into the shadow biome. But that doesn't much matter because let's find out what you guys think about this idea of the shadow biosphere. Let's go to our good friend Joseph in Iowa. What's up, Joseph? Welcome to the show. How are you tonight, my man?
Hey, there's a movie I tried to find while I was waiting. I couldn't find it, but it is exactly what you're talking about, except for like the wealthy people use the shadow biome or the other like reality that you could bleed into. They use that as a utopia, and like someone got into that from like the bottom, like they came up from the dirt of the other side and got into the utopia and started doing something, and like it was bleeding in, both realities were bleeding in to the utopia, and they're like, you could see like homeless people on the ground and like rich people were dancing, and it was all mixing together. It was kind of weird.
That's pretty wild. So, okay, so they found a way to live in the same space, but they sort of just, the elites kind of stepped over into one-dimensional step, whichever way, and it started leaking into their reality, the ugliness they left behind? Yeah. So like where they are, there would be, like they could be on Skid Row and they wouldn't even know it because of that shadow or whatever, that different reality. That's pretty wild.
Kind of a newer one. I'm not sure what it's called.
Yeah, what was it good?
Yeah, it's a good one. It's like a top. Is it In Time?
In Time? I'm not sure.
It reminds me of In Time, where they have the time, like they can live forever, but they have the time on their arms.
Oh, with Timberlake, right?
Yeah.
Okay. I can't remember the name of that.
That might be the one.
Okay. All right. Yeah. Okay. So I haven't seen it. I've seen a clip or something, but that's it. Now here's the thing, though. Right? Just considering the fact that maybe there is something called a shadow biosphere, and maybe there's life forms literally in the same space as us, maybe right underneath our feet. Maybe they're actually even something to the effect of maybe like symbiotics. We have to have them to survive, and we just don't know it. Do you think this is a possible thing? And what does it mean if it is?
Yeah, like I think you were talking weeks back about like cheat codes, maybe each one is a different feature or cheat code. Like one allows us to be I am, like, or see. One allows us to feel. Like there's all kinds of different levels, and who knows? I don't know. I think it's really attached to objects and belief, though. Like, in like just our generation exposed to the internet is less vulnerable, but I think like the older ones, like people watching TVs and stuff, like are more susceptible to like government spheres, and who knows what they got going on. I'm just throwing something out. It could be more intense with the internet, though.
Okay, so interesting. So you're actually talking about, so not just maybe a shadow biosphere within, like, we're talking about maybe alien life or life in a different form than we know it in the same space. You're talking about maybe sort of like a phasing of reality through propaganda, which is what we talk about on this show all the time, right?
Yeah.
Okay, I dig it. And I'm open to those ideas because, of course, the entire thing we do on this and why we talk about this stuff is because of all the propaganda, right? It's sort of taking a step outside of it and saying, look, there's all this other like crazy science going on out there that people should be paying attention to that they aren't, that they don't. And, well, shadow biosphere is one of those things that it's a real scientific hypothesis where they assume there is life within the same space we live in. But what does that mean? They're talking about on a microbial scale. But what if it's not? I'm sure you've heard of shadow people, right?
Yeah, unfortunately. I mean, I've heard experience from my dad. My dad does like drugs a lot, so that's a side effect of that for sure.
Okay.
And
right.
I remember one time, I was mad at him one time, and like I triggered him to like see more, like just by expressing like strong vocals towards him. So, like it's a weird thing.
So, okay, this is interesting too. All right, so just with the power of your negativity or whatever it was, you were upset, shouted at him, and you basically changed his reality, right? He started experiencing other things.
Yeah, made him bleed, and that's the same thing that happened in the movie that I'm talking about. He was in the hall where all the rich people were dancing, and he's spitting all this truth and saying something. And as he's doing it, it's like flashing, and you can see homeless people in the corner, and you can see people, little kids that are dirty and stuff. And
that's pretty wild. That's pretty wild. I can't remember the name of that movie. Is it In Time? Anybody know the name of this movie we're talking about here? If not, that's okay. We'll dig it out. I'm sure you'll dig it out after you're off the phone here. Okay, so good stuff. I like the ideas here to kind of taking this in different directions right off the bat, which is perfect because that's why we do this show, just to get your thoughts on just in general what's happening here. So you're saying maybe there's something going on with this.
Yeah.
Okay, I like that. I can deal with maybe.
Definitely a maybe.
I can deal with maybe. You're the best. Anything else for us, Joseph?
That's basically it.
Okay, Joseph here has a YouTube channel called Hydro Hose. Check it out. You can find the link in the description. He does original music, and he's doing things like we do a little bit as well, spitting a little bit of truth here and there. You're the best, Joseph. I appreciate the call. Have a fantastic night. Happy Monday.
Alrighty.
We'll talk to you soon, my friend.
Yep.
All right. Good night. There you go. Phones work. Thank you, Joseph, for breaking the ice, getting the conversation started. Interesting thoughts here. So not only are we speaking in terms of microbial shadow biosphere, I expanded that to what about the biosphere of maybe something living in the same space as us? Sort of like you could talk about alien life, like we started with Dr. Eric Davis and UFO Joe and that sort of thing. Or how about in terms of, what about shadow people? What if those are the aliens? Those are the extraterrestrials that you see out of the corner of your eye. You snap your head real quick and it was there and now it's not. Is this stuff real? Is this stuff fake? Is this stuff a figment of our imagination? And that's the thing. I'm not exactly sure, which is why we talk about this. All right, so great stuff from Joseph. Appreciate the call. What are your thoughts on this shadow biosphere? There's a lot more to this. We can get to it, but just the nutshell version is this. The shadow biosphere is a hypothetical microbial biosphere, but we'll just toss out microbial to talk about shadow people and aliens, because why the hell not? A hypothetical biosphere of Earth that would use radically different biochemical and molecular processes from that of currently known life. Although life on Earth is relatively well studied, if a shadow biosphere exists, it still may remain unnoticed because the exploration of the microbial world targets primarily the biochemistry of the macroorganisms. And there we go. I don't know. And so that's the question, right? As we always consider not just our reality, we consider the nature of our reality. And clearly science doesn't know all the answers, or else we'd have our flying cars and we'd be stepping through stargates and all the rest of this stuff, right? But none of that is, at least publicly available at this point. But since we don't have it, it is one of those things that makes you go, all right, so where are these aliens? If they're hiding from us, and it's not from, UFOs from Alpha Centauri, is it possible they live here? And they've always lived here, but not even in Agartha or any of these other places. They're just phased out. They're just in some other reality. Well, right here. Maybe one right over my shoulder watching me do this radio show. I don't know. And also, last night I was listening to a radio show that shall remain unnamed, but there was a discussion going on regarding this exact thing. And maybe not exact thing, a similar thing. In that, well, let's say that these entities sort of bleed over into our reality, all right? From wherever they're coming from, who knows? Whether it's that shadow entity, whether it's aliens, whether it's things like this. But we see them as what? Sometimes orbs. We see them as what? Maybe shadows out of the corner of our eye. If these things exist, okay? We're just kind of drinking the maybe juice and considering all the possibilities here. But if that's the case, does that mean in their reality, they see us as orbs? They see us as shadows out of the corner of their eyes? What's going on with this? I don't know. What are your thoughts as we consider this thought tonight, this shadow biosphere? And we'll get to, of course, Plato, the allegory of the cave, because why not? It fits in perfectly with this type of discussion, because we're living in one reality, but this one reality may or may not be anything like we expect it to be. And we'll get to that in a little bit as well. But love to hear your thoughts. If you have any ideas on this or theories or, well, even whatever you got, I'd love to hear it. As you know, this show is non-linear and open-ended, and we can take it wherever you want to take it. I'm ready. If you got it, I'm ready. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. And here's part of that interview with Jeremy Corbell. I got a couple clips off before we started real fast. I didn't get the one we were talking about, but let's just hear this. He's talking about these alien entities that have been covered up, possibly, and, well, maybe they aren't UFOs at all, or maybe they're entities instead. I don't know. Let's hear a little bit of this interview from Jeremy Corbell, and this is on Fox. Let's play it and keep on trucking.
Well, here's the problem, is that UFO sightings have increased both from our military is reporting them as well as civilians. I get videos every day since our government admitted that UFOs are real and they fly with impunity in our restricted airspace. As you remember, last 6 months, I've been obtaining and releasing military footage of UFOs that the Pentagon has been confirming. When you get these videos like the one you showed earlier, it's one single source, a civilian single source. We need corroborative sensor data in order to have a very robust case for a specific UFO event series. That's what I provided with the USS Omaha and the USS Russell when the UFOs were buzzing our warships. When I released all that footage, we have radar data, FLIR data, all sorts of visual data. That makes for a good case. But you're going to see more and more of these because our own military has told us there's been an increase in frequency of sightings and encounters.
I'm sure everybody watching is wondering, are we being invaded, and do I need to get a booster if that's the case? That's a joke, Jeremy.
Here, look,
that's a joke, Jeremy.
I know.
That's a joke, but here's the serious... Go ahead.
Well, I'm just saying that the idea, though, is that we don't know who is flying these craft. We don't know the intent of those operating these vehicles. And our government is taking it very seriously. Right now, there is legislation on the floor that is being debated to create a really profoundly robust UFO study group, something that is not in the shadows of secrecy deep within the Pentagon, but something that is now more beholden to the public and having to be transparent. We are all looking for UFO transparency. One individual case of UFOs is not something to hang your hat on.
Okay, exactly. And yes, that was a very bad joke. I don't ever think I'm funny, and then like even the bad jokes I make were better than that. That was horrible. Yes, definitely bad joke. But okay, so the thing is this, right? What Jeremy Corbell is describing is the idea, the whole idea here, and he's made several appearances, so we're kind of combining them into this one sort of same idea of what Dr. Eric Davis has stated in the past, that it's possible there is this weird shadow biome. And what that means is it's, well, really alien life right underneath our noses. We miss it every single day because we don't know what to look for. And it could be in terms of the tiny organisms, this that type of thing. But it also could be, well, maybe they're here and we visually see them as what? What do we see them as? We see them as maybe shadows out of the corner of our eye. We see them as maybe glowing spheres floating around. We see them, maybe they are the UFOs. I kind of like that. That's my favorite theory, by the way, when we're talking about UFOs as, you know, not being flown by little green men. But I like the idea that maybe UFOs are the machine elves, the DMT machine elves, or right, maybe they are the entities themselves, and this is how we perceive them, as these flying things, these flying craft. But they're not. They're things. They're entities. They're, you know, people from, well, somewhere else. The shadow biome is where they're from. Just throwing that out there as a maybe. Ultra-terrestrials, what's up, Night Stalker? I see there. Yeah, so I don't know. What is your thought on this, right? We'll get to Plato's allegory of the cave as we go tonight. But the idea here is that, is it possible that in this space, the same space we live in, there's other entities, there's other life? And what does it look like? And so I've opened this up to UFOs so far, shadow people. We haven't even touched on ghosts yet, but of course, if you're talking about shadow people, you kind of have to. Is it all of this possible that we've talked about this in the past, is how people are pretty sloppy historically labeling all things paranormal, because you can't really, like I said, until you can put an alien and a Bigfoot in a zoo in cages next to each other, you can't really point to both and consider who's what and what's when and where's why, right? That sort of thing, until you can somehow at least maybe make contact with these things, whatever they are. I'm not advocating we should catch these things and throw them in cages, by the way. That's horrible, but it's just a bad analogy, right? Yeah, Derek's got it right. The call is coming from inside the house. Yeah, so I don't know. That's the idea tonight, and I'm not sure. I don't know what to think of this, other than I love the thought that we're not the only things in this same space. And I think that you can take the idea a step further, in that we've talked about how time supposedly exists as that flat circle, in that the same space I occupy right now, this very space, and the same space you're occupying right now, time-wise, right? 100 years ago, this was a desert where I'm standing, right? 100 years from now, what might this space be? But if time exists in the same place at all times, and we're just out of phase with those timelines, then that means exactly what we're talking about. So let's why not? Why the hell? Let's just throw time travel into the mix while we're at it. Because why the hell not? This is Troubled Minds after all. But I'm not so sure. Like all of this, I don't know where to go with it, other than it seems like this could be a whole lot of things. And I think I wouldn't be surprised personally if this was actually happening out there somewhere. Okay, again, I'm not saying this is the way things are, etc., so on, drinking the maybe juice, maybe, But if it's not, well, then what is this? Is this just another, bad Wikipedia article? Is this just Jeremy Corbell doing Jeremy Corbell things? Is it Dr. Eric Davis doing speculating, and maybe he knows something we don't know? I don't know. And that's what this is all about. This is all about kind of parsing what people say. And let's see, where can I find this real quick? Let me find this thing. All right, there we go. Let's read just a little bit of this, and then we'll keep on trucking tonight. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. We're talking about the shadow biosphere. And if you want to be part of the show, 702-957-1037. If you're on the Discord, just let me know. I'm trying to watch the other things here. And let's see. All right. Okay. Yeah. I'll stop muting myself, by the way. I see you guys over there on Rockfin. Okay. So science.org has it this way. Shadow biosphere might be hiding a strange life right under our noses, right? Scientists say we have been too myopic in the search for non-traditional life forms. And I think that's the question here. That's the whole idea, is that what is a non-traditional life form? And how far does this span? I think that's the question, right? So listen to this. This is pretty wild. This is from science.org. If we came across alien life, would we even know it was alive? So let's just add black goo to the mix while we're at it. That was a central question posed at a session here yesterday at the annual meeting of AAAS, which publishes Science magazine. All known life on Earth fits a particular mold, but life from other planets might break free from that mold, making it difficult for us to identify. We could even be oblivious to unfamiliar forms of life right under our noses. All life as we know it follows a standard protocol known as the central dogma, using DNA and RNA to store genetic information and translating that into proteins. And all living things rely on the same handful of chemical elements. So, when searching for life in remote or extreme environments, scientists typically look for the signs of the kind of life we're familiar with. But, and this is a quote, if we have other organisms out there that do things just slightly differently, we might miss the boat. And that's what's going on. What's going on? It should be fine. Rockfin should be fine. Kelly, how you doing, buddy? I see you there. There's folks on Rockfin over there. Let's see. What are they saying? Let's see. Hold on. Yeah, maybe they're saying there's a problem with Rockfin. I don't know. Unfortunately, I can't fix those things right this moment because, well, I'm only me. What's up, Kelly? Thanks for letting me know that's broken. So, okay. So anyway, just to boil this down, so to take it a step further, so clearly we're talking about microbial life. We're talking about different elements of the composition of life, not DNA, RNA, other things, other actual chemical elements and compounds that create other complex forms of life. Well, if they're here and we don't know what to look for, how do we know they're here? And that's the idea tonight. That's what we're talking about. And of course, taking this to all other areas and angles, including UFOs, including shadow people, including what else do we got? Let's throw time travel in, because of course, if we all exist in the same space, except a different time slice, you see, it gets complicated super fast, doesn't it? And how would entities in those other spaces perceive us? As orbs, as shadows, as maybe they're watching us? I don't know at all. I have no idea. Anyway, that's what's on my mind tonight. That's what we're talking about. Thank you, Joseph, for kicking us off with a great phone call, and looking to hear from you. What are your thoughts on this? Is this one of those situations where it's a little too much maybe juice for you? Or is this, well, just the right amount of maybe juice? You tell me. I think in terms of stretching not just the imagination, but stretching the way that life is mysterious. We've talked about the octopus recently, talked about in the news show the elephants, talking about what life will step in to take over for humans once we've, well, extincted ourselves. What if there's life here already? What if there's life that we haven't recognized or have not earned the ability to recognize? What do you think? Love to hear your thoughts at 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. This is Troubled Minds. I'm Michael Strange. More of the shadow biosphere, aliens, shadow people, and you when we return. Be right back. we are talking about the alien abduction phenomenon.
The aliens are looking through your eyes and they're accessing your optic nerve. I'm doing fantastic. Through that optic nerve, they're transferring to your brain. People are random images as they traverse neurons in the brain. And they also feel them planting or receiving memories or ideas or images.
Broadcasting live from a secret bunker just off the extraterrestrial highway. Somewhere in the desert sands outside of Las Vegas. From somewhere in space-time, loosely labeled Generation X on planet Earth. And asking questions of you in earnest into the digital darkness.
Good evening and welcome to Troubled Minds Radio. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and hello to all of you who may also have troubled minds. This show's live. We do it Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday at 7 p.m. Pacific. And what exactly is it we do? Well, we talk about all the things you're not allowed to talk about. And what are those things? Aliens, conspiracy, the paranormal, the government, academia, the 24-hour news cycle, propaganda, and the general feeling that we live in the upside down. Speaking of the upside down, well, we'll get to that in a little bit because, of course, tonight's topic about the shadow biosphere really sounds like the upside down, doesn't it? It sounds like some secret portal opened up by the Department of Energy deep underground at Camp Hero. Well, I guess we could add that to the list of things to talk about tonight. But the reason we do this live is to include you. I don't have any inside sources, so as a result, my secret weapon is you. Meaning, let's put our heads together, let's think about these things, and consider all the possibilities. And that's what we do on this show. And we do it live on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter. I'm watching all those chats in all the places, trying to keep up with all you guys because all the amazing thoughts just flowing through the chat constantly are, one, blowing up my brain, but two, making it difficult for me to catch up as well. So I get all of the things. So what we're doing tonight is not just reading the chat in all those places. We're also taking your phone calls and your thoughts on Discord, and you can do phone calls there as well. And so if you want to be part of the show tonight, and what are your thoughts on the shadow biosphere? All right. And just to reframe this real quick before I read the actual phone number and give you all the good information, this is from science.org, and the headline is this: Shadow biosphere might be hiding strange life right under our noses. And of course, this is talking about microbial life. It's talking about maybe entities that are alive, complex biomicroorganisms that are alive, but they actually do not, they're not easily quantifiable by us, so we don't know what to look for. They don't have the RNA, the DNA structures that we're used to seeing with living life forms. They don't have many other things. But I expanded the example to include not just these strange biospheres, but something called a what's it called? It'll come to me. But I'll get to it in a sec. That's Dr. Eric Davis and his quote. But the point is this. If you take this right here and you say, okay, if life is existing right under our noses all the time, is it possible that also, not just here physically on Earth, that life is existing under our noses in sort of a strange dimensional or time slip flux sort of situation, which makes the nature of reality extremely murky, all right? That's the question tonight. And so what is all this? And so I've equated this to maybe UFOs, to maybe seeing orbs in the sky, or maybe orbs fly through walls and into your room, things like this. People see this stuff all the time. Maybe equating this to shadow people, where out of the corner of your eye you see something that you looked real fast and it was there, but now it's not? Is that a trick of the brain? Is it us playing our imagination playing a trick on ourselves? Things like this. What happens if you expand it to not just, well, this shadow biosphere is hiding life right here, possibly on Earth with us? What about an expanded shadow biosphere where we're talking about, well, those time slips? We're talking about maybe dimensional happenings, left, right, up, down, sideways, and in the upside down. And that's what we're talking about tonight. So as we consider all these things, do you think any of this is related? Or do you think damn it, Michael Strange, you've stretched too far this time? You've gone too far, my friend. That would be okay, because I've been accused of way worse, and that's totally fine. But, so, like I said before, the whole secret to this show, the secret weapon of this show, is you. So I'd love to hear your thoughts. If you have an idea of what this shadow biosphere, the shadow biome, that was the term I was looking for, might actually be, do you think it expands greater than just this? And I'll read a little bit from this article to give you an idea what I'm talking about. But do you think it expands further? That's the question. And if you want to be part of the show, 702-957-1037. And yes, a happy 50th birthday to our good Liam Martin out there. What's up, buddy? Yes, Barb says over on Rockfin, like tuning in and out of a radio station or TV channel. And I think that's a good way to put it. Maybe the life is phasing in and out. What if in a microbial sense, these shadow biospheres actually are also phasing in and out of our reality at the same damn time? I think it's a little bit nuts. I don't know. If you ask me, I don't know what to think, because there's too much maybe juice sometimes for even me. And I'm the first guy to ever drink maybe juice. I think that's the thing. But anyway, at least the maybe juice trademark maybe juice. I'm just kidding. Totally just kidding. All right. So Derek says he's in the queue. So let's go to our good friend Derek, the Night Stalker. Derek in Massachusetts. Welcome to the show. Thanks for hanging out. How are you, my friend? Happy Monday to you. Welcome to Troubled Minds.
What's going on, brother? Great show tonight.
Oh, thank you.
Happy birthday.
Happy birthday, Rohan. Absolutely. A little bit all over the place, but I'm hoping you could maybe snap this into a little bit of focus here for us.
I mean, I might go a little. I've been drinking my maybe juice too over here, so I'll probably go just all over the place as you are right now.
Okay, that's fine. Go right ahead.
The last time I called in, we lost audio and everything. So if at any point my audio is not sounding good, or if you can't hear me, just somebody let me know. And I'll stop babbling.
You got it, buddy. Go right ahead.
All right. I just took a couple just keyword notes just to kind of make sure I remember all these things as you're talking about it. But when I first started tuning in, you were talking about things that are kind of like potentially here to maybe balance us out, or even maybe like feed off of us in some way. That like it put an image of like the remora fish that kind of like swim underneath sharks and collect all the food that they like, the kind of the scraps from the food that they eat and stuff. So it makes me think that whatever type of energy humans are giving off, there's bound to be something that feeds on that we're maybe just not aware of. We might like catch peeks of, we might like catch like glimpses of at the corner of our eye or something that, but we might not be aware. And some of these things might actually become bigger and bigger until they're a problem for us. But for all we know, we could just all have these things that are just kind of swimming around in this shadow biosphere, this whatever this thing is that's just outside our perception or something like that. That's kind of like, I don't know, it's just like it's birthed from us maybe, or just something just like a natural organism that just feeds on our waste in some capacity, There's a book, I think it's out right now. It's like less than a year old, but it's called Doctor Strange and the Sorcerer Supreme, where he is the famous Doctor Strange, but he actually goes back to his roots and starts like working in the medical field again. And they show like one of the first pages of the books, they show like the hospital room and everybody, like all the patients waiting and all the different ailments, like what everybody else sees. And then they show what Doctor Strange sees. And like all the people are in like black and white or whatever. And then they show all these colored like monsters, basically these like things that look like viruses and stuff, but they're like sentient and everything. And they're like attached to like people's like necks and stuff. And they're like feeding and draining people of their energy, causing these ailments that they're not like, that a regular doctor wouldn't be able to understand, Is that idea that there's just things that just like, just the way any type of organism in nature has these kind of balance, like things feed off it and just You know what I mean? Does that make sense? Like, kind of a more fish analogy, you know?
Yeah. So take it to that next level. So we're talking about these maybe shadow entities that live in this weird shadow biome that they're not shadow people, but it's like a shadow chupacabra, to say, right? Something like this, with wings and fangs, and they're trying to feed on our energy. Exactly. I like it. I like it.
And then like as far as the dark multiverses and stuff, that's a little different, because that is just kind of a separate reality completely. But it got me thinking about that when we started thinking about the upside down, and that's more of like an actual shadow biosphere, shadow biome, where it's like it's not exactly our reality. It's like layered maybe underneath our reality, but there is some type of crossover where the two ecosystems merge, like whether there's doors connecting them, or whether like that like weird black goo type plants or vines or whatever like come from one world to the next, or those like little insect things that Will coughs up in the story and everything, that there is some type of overlay where whatever creatures, organisms are in this upside down shadow world, shadow biosphere, does have some type of interplay with us and like feed on us, and there's a connection with the mind, with like all the 11 stuff and the kids with powers and all that kind of Montauk experiment type stuff, like the MK Ultra type stuff. So things from another realm or another plane of existence that every so often interact with us in some way, you know, is interesting, very interesting. And then in different forms of like media, it's constantly popping up. So DC has like kind of two different versions of it. They have like the straight up dark multiverse, which is just basically an evil version, like all of the bad thoughts that everyone has in this reality kind of manifest in another reality that's like right underneath ours, you know, and then entities from that reality are constantly trying to get into this one to like take a hold of our like pure reality and then corrupt that. And then there's another thing called the upside down man, which is a little more connected to an actual like shadow biosphere, where he's something called the other kind. It's like the name of his like race or whatever. Like the other kind is these creatures that are literal manifestations of like our terrible thoughts and our nightmares, and like they're reflections of us, and they're reflections of our things that are in our psychology, you know. So a shadow biosphere, and like they're sentient. So the idea of a shadow biosphere that's created from our mind, like the power of the human consciousness, the idea that the mind is rendering reality in some form or fashion. What if there's like some kind of runoff from that, or some type of like animal or organism or something that like understands that power, and like the way the remora fish feeds on the shark, like they feed off that excess, like whatever runoff happens when we're manifesting reality might be feeding a whole nother biosphere in some reality that we can't see, you know?
Yeah, that's like Joseph described when he said that he had that incident with his father where his energy, like his angry energy, caused his father to see like, so it's almost like he either manifested these things or caused his father in a an altered state to also manifest these scary entities, these shadow entities or something that suddenly snapped out of nowhere and just scared the hell out of him. That's pretty wild.
Yeah, good. And then you were talking about the DMT elves and stuff, which is a whole other thing that's definitely in the mix too. We're just one of, I mean, name the term, like frequency, dimension, like layer of reality, realm, like whatever. We're just one type of experience of consciousness. We're a very limited experience, and outside of our experience, outside of this realm or whatever, there's other things that are layered over right next to us at all times, like these clockwork elves, these machine elves and stuff, and entities across the board that people see during these experiences. There seems to be like a journeying into another realm type a flavor to it, but for the most part, what they're noticing is that these things are kind of like always tinkering, always doing their function, and then when we notice them, they seem to be surprised by us, which makes it seem that like we're always kind of, I don't know if they can always see us. It's like sometimes you get the "you're not supposed to be here" type thing, which makes it seem like we're in a foreign land. But a lot of times it's just like, whoa, he actually is looking at me. He or she is actually like noticing me, which doesn't usually happen, which gives me the idea that maybe they are aware of us and they know that we can't see them, and when we do, it's like shocking for them. So that's like, I don't know, which is a really, really fascinating idea, and it just seems to be true. I resonate pretty closely with that. The idea that what we experience as reality is just a tiniest sliver of what's actually there, and we understand that, but we just don't. We can't be aware of the things we aren't aware of. So we just know that we're not aware of them, basically. So the possibilities of within those different layers, within just different gradients of consciousness, like turn the dial one way in different directions, we might come across other entities that are existing beside us at all times, and that just a certain tweak of consciousness, a certain psychedelic, a certain ritual practice, running like exercise or whatever can do. It can shift your consciousness a little bit, and you might catch a glimpse of these things that are always the shadow realm that's always overlaid on top of ours, you know. And then you get into like, sorry, go ahead. You go. Sorry.
Nope, go right ahead. You're doing great. Hey, man, I don't need to save you. Go right ahead, sir.
Like the idea of outside of like the DMT elves and stuff, just flat out elves and like fae folk and like elementals and like different things that might exist. More so, the DMT elves I picture more so being like, it's something needs to be done to consciousness to see them. Where elves and fae folk and like these ultra terrestrial type things seem to be always interacting with us no matter what, and like different people can are heightened maybe and can perceive them better, but whether we were aware of them or not, they're doing their thing, and they're like maybe more natural to this planet. Like something like an elemental is maybe more. This is their home than it is ours, you know. So we're almost like their shadow biosphere in some connotation, you know, like that's what's natural to the planet. And then the idea that maybe, I don't know, they might look at us the same way. Like a tree on some level of its consciousness might perceive us as like, what's this like weird parasite that's running amok and creating technology and doing what it's doing, you know, like it's not even aware that we're right here, you know, which is interesting, you know. So just that whole ultra terrestrial idea. And then like, this is like the weirdest part. But we talked about it in the voice chat the other day, like the whole sky jellyfish thing. These like, it's a kind of a small, it's like a untapped unexplored rabbit hole. It's kind of tough to find stuff online, but people are seeing these like and photographing and all kinds of stuff. These things that look like giant amoebas in the sky almost, and they're like just kind of, they almost like blend in with the sky, but people can kind of just see them. Catch glimpses of them. They're very similar to like almost these giant rods people are seeing in the sky, kind of like or these orb type things, but they're almost like giant jellyfish. And the idea that what if there is some type of firmament. I'm not saying like we're living in a flat earth and there's a dome, but I'm saying what if there is type of some magnetic field or something that traps in like the building blocks of life, and they're all kind of like building up in the upper atmosphere that would create a literal other biosphere in the sky that maybe people are seeing sometimes, you know. I can't believe I haven't mentioned Corbell at all this whole time, but yeah, that whole thing, I'm just fascinated by him talking about that. I've been waiting for him to mention like there's something weirder going on with these UFOs, because he has had in like interviews with more spiritual people, he has talked about the fact that he thinks that these things that people are summoning, these UFOs, this like CE5 stuff that his friends from like his childhood are with him are summoning, that they might have some, they might be more like a fae folk, a fairy thing, an ultra terrestrial. He's not, I don't think he's convinced that they're actually from space, which brings in this: what if they're from here, or what if they're always here, or if they're just from another realm and they're popping in and out and stuff. I don't know. I'm rambling. I'm afraid of somebody behind me, so I'm gonna.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
I don't know.
There's no hurry. Nobody's behind you. A couple thoughts there. You got a couple of actually Lord of the Rings references. So that actual, like you said, the maybe the trees consider us some sort of parasitic something, creating technology, spoiling the water, that whole bit, right? And we got in Lord of the Rings these things called the treants or ents, right? And so, well, is a tree conscious? Is that actually the shadow biosphere that we don't even know anything about?
Even just animism, the idea of animism alone, like a tree, under that, like everything is. So like a tree, Gordon White said this like one time, this is like 7 years ago I heard this, he's like, what if a tree is something so ancient, way older than us, much more wise than us. But what we're seeing is just like 0.1% of what it really is. We're just seeing the little tip of the iceberg that crosses over with our 3D plane, or our physical reality. But what it truly is something much different, and that could be the case with everything in our world. Like what we're seeing is like just the tip of the spear for everything, just like the 3D, I don't know, kind of the 3D version of everything, but just outside of that, some layer on top of that or beneath that or something exists its true form, and that might be where the action actually is, and that shadow biosphere, there might be, if we kind of can get a glimpse into what's going on there, we might have a lot of answers to these questions of like, why is these things happening? Why does everything seem so weird? Like these trickster like things that happen, like why does the weirdness of it seem baked into all these things? It could be because what's truly happening is actually going on in this like shadow biosphere, and it might make more sense there. I don't know. Really great show, great topic and stuff.
Thank you. You as well. Amazing ideas. One more thing before you go as well. So the second Lord of the Rings reference is Frodo and Bilbo in the ring. When they put on the ring, are they not entering the shadow biosphere?
Oh yeah.
It seems like it, huh? It seems like it. And those the nine riders, walkers, whatever they were, the Nazgul, they exist as these like hooded entities in the real world that are just spirits. The nine, exactly. But when you put on the ring, they become these ring wraiths of actual like spiritual malevolence. Yeah, wild stuff, man.
It is wild. And then just the nine, that just drags me to the Council of Nine and all that kind of stuff. How is these? And it's a huge question I have. How is the shadow biosphere? How are these entities from higher and lower realms, or are just outside of our realm? What are we to them, and like how are they interacting with us? Why are they interacting with us, and what's their goal? For the Council of Nine and stuff. And like this, I don't know. They seem to be wanting us to do something, And so I'm not sure what are they doing. I don't know. We're really like great stuff, Mike. I'm looking forward to everybody's calls.
You're the best.
But really great Maybe Juice flavor tonight. Loving it.
Absolutely.
Great brand of Maybe Juice. Great year.
You as well. Thank you very much. This is Derek the Night Stalker. Give him a follow. He's got a YouTube channel, and he's got a trailer. Let's inspire him to do some more. You're the best. You're the best, my friend. Have a great night. Talk to you. Thanks a lot. There you go. It's as simple as that, right? I mean, it's not as simple as that, but it's as simple as dialing the phone number if you want to be part of the show. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. You can also click the Discord link like Derek just did. Come join us. Come talk about this stuff. What is this shadow biosphere? What is it hiding? Is it more than microbial life? Is it more like the Lord of the Rings than we think? Haha. More shadow biosphere, odd entities, and you when we return. Don't go anywhere. More Troubled Minds on the way. Welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we are streaming on Rockfin, YouTube, DLive, and Twitter, and we are broadcasting live on the Fringe FM. And we're taking your phone calls tonight as we talk about a mysterious shadow biome. Of course, it could be a microbial life, about talking about different things, non-RNA, non-DNA. But what if it's not? What if it's more than that? What if there's life here in the same space as us, in a different form? We're talking about maybe UFOs. We're talking about shadow people. We're talking now about Lord of the Rings and putting on the one ring and meeting the nine, the Nazgul. I don't know. You tell me. What is this all about? Love to hear your thoughts if you want to be part of the show. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. Let's do it. Let's keep on trucking. Lots to consider here, right? There's as always, right? You would expect when Derek shows up and starts throwing out all the different different angles. I'm like, oh God, no, I'm not. I'm like, yes, this is what I was talking about. Somebody to explain it better than I do. And then there we go. Now we're talking. Now I feel like I'm not totally insane. All right. So we're going to go to our good friend here, Daryl, in just a sec. Doombot 9000 says, does a photon cast a shadow? If so, does that shadow cast its own shadow? That's a good question. Speaking of the maybe juice, you tell me. All right, let's go to our good friend Daryl in New York. Welcome to the show. Are you there, Daryl? Test 1, 2.
Here I am.
Welcome to Troubled Minds. How are you tonight?
Thank you. Doing good. What a great topic. So interesting. I was thinking about two things. One of them was I was talking once on a show with Lori and Fenton. She had this idea at the time, but I think she's changed that idea since, because she wrote a book about it. She was saying that she thought that the shadow people were remote viewers that were spying on you, and they visited targeted people, but that was like a paranoia aspect or point of view. Since then, she's actually written a book, and I just found it. She wrote a story about them. She says they're a race of humanoid figures, and they have various degrees of gray colors. In any case, they have these laws. They should be avoid discovery by humans. They do not steal or commit crimes, especially involving humans. They do not injure any human or other shadow people. They stay hidden in daylight. They assist other shadow people, and they obey the riders and the laws. Now, the riders, most of them the shadow people are nomads, but they obey these riders or their police force. And the riders mainly prevent humans from discovering the shadow people, but also reinforce the laws. There's not a lot of them left, so most of them travel in groups from one city to the next, but they prefer to stay in one place. And they only come out at night to mask the color of their skin. And they dissolve into shadows. They're not found in bright light, so they stick to the shadows where they can blend in and disappear. So maybe we've seen her shadow people. And I kind of take some of the things she says seriously because she speaks to a lot of experiencers. And she takes experiencers kind of seriously when they have a lot in common. And she puts a lot of dots together. So I just wanted to bring that up. Lori and Fenton, she also has a podcast on another station, Revolution Radio, it's called. And,
okay, great. I've heard of her. So just a thought on that remote viewers watching us. Like Derek was describing, like it seems like, some people, some of these experiencers have described those moments when, whatever these shadow entities are around us, they're doing whatever it is they're doing. They're aware of us. They just don't expect us to be aware of them. So I wonder then, regarding that remote viewing thing, would we notice a remote viewer? Would it be out of the corner of your eye? I don't know if it's I don't know about paranoid. I guess maybe people call. I call incessantly watching Fox News and CNN paranoid. But but what am I? What do I know? But I'm just saying. I don't know. I think it doesn't sound like a terrible notion there. But yeah, good stuff. I haven't. Do you know what the name of that book is? What her actually book is?
I'm not sure. Let me just see. I remembered we had a conversation about it, and it was during my Morgellon period. Anyway, she was saying a lot of people that are targeted, or they thought Morgellons people were targeted, and they were being watched, and they felt like they were being watched. It's called The Shadow People. It's a story by Lori and Story Wright.
Okay, all right.
Story Wright. It's storywright.com. The Shadow People by Lorian. Yeah.
Okay.
Then the other thing, I was talking about this to Rohan about giants, and I wanted to go back a second. I don't know if you've ever seen a car and you're walking towards a car and you think there are people in the car, and then as you pass by the car, there aren't any people in it, but you saw their heads. Has anyone ever experienced that? Just walking down the street and you just see people in a car. Just looks like maybe the headrest makes the shadow on the car look like a person, and it looks like they're full of people. And then as soon as you are in one dimension of the car, there's nothing there.
Yeah.
I don't know if you've experience that. I see that all the time, and I just, oh, there's people in that car. No, there's nobody in that car, you know. And that happened to me with the giant. I'm not going to go into the story again. But then I was talking about that to Rohan. You know, maybe the giants are these, you know, very advanced people that are able to go in and out of dimensions, and they can turn into shadows. And they are very, you know, advanced as far as the mental, you know, capabilities. And maybe we were once maybe that advanced, or maybe there are wizards that are that advanced. Like Rohan talks about, you know, there are several people at that wizard level, or that, I don't know if I'm calling it the wrong word, wizard level, that are capable of doing, you know, flying or doing extra, you know, paranormal sort of things or supernatural things that we consider supernatural, but maybe they know the law of physics. They know how to go in and out of dimensions, and maybe it's something we're just going to have to learn one day. And we're, you know, more advanced, you know, consciously, when we expand our minds a little more, we might be able to go into that shadow dimension. Or, you know, who knows if we can traverse dimensions, if it's a dimensional thing. That's what I'm thinking, you know, that's where I'm going with that. And maybe those giants are still around, and they can go in and out of portals and dimensions with their minds, because I think they are around. I think I've seen them. I'm pretty sure I saw a flesh and blood one, let alone, you know, their shadows are definitely abundant at night, shadowing against the New York City skyline, and in the water, in the river. Definitely can make out shadows of people, you know, don't know what it's a reflection of, but it certainly has an illusion of large people in my city. If they like to hang around the cities and, you know, by the rivers, maybe that's, you know, their hangout.
Yeah,
that's
right.
where they hide.
And it's left to us to figure out what the hell's going on around us, per usual, right? Yeah, and there are a lot of experiencers that say they have seen shadow people, that say they have seen, like Derek described, maybe kind of phasing out of their time frame, whether that's sort of a, you know, what we've known as, we've talked about this in the past, as maybe time slips, shout out to Rivers if you're out there listening, or other things like this, where there's like just some sort of, I don't know, maybe an instability in our own reality, right? And we've talked about that, maybe things kind of accidentally kind of stepping through, like that 4D Toys video that you guys can find that on the Discord, where you have these theoretical four-dimensional objects, not time as the fourth dimension, actually like a fourth dimensional object. You can slide back and forth in terms of, it can kind of just step into the three-dimensional world by accident and only show you part of itself. And so there's a whole lot here. There's a whole lot to this with drinking the maybe juice and smoking the maybe vapes and all the rest of this. But I think, interestingly, I like the Lorien Fenton ideas there. It sounds pretty good stuff. Sounds fantastic per usual. So I don't know if you got to put it to a guess here. Do you think there is this shadow world where it's in our same spot, where we're looking at shadow people out of the corner of our eye, and who knows, right? I mean, we could get into time travelers stepping in and out. I mean, there's tons and tons of stuff here. And I guess here's the question I have to round this out. If there was some civilization that was able to kind of step in and out of realities through dimensional portals and things like this, what would it be like? Right? What would it be like to us, to like the ignorance that don't know what's behind the magic, what's behind the technology, or what the science, or whatever's happening there? What would it seem like?
Who knows? I mean, you know, we have peripheral vision, and I know people see stuff out of their peripheral vision that, like, we're sure it's there, but then it's not there. You know, everybody sees something out of their peripheral, and it's been like something supernatural. Maybe there's something about our peripheral vision, like we just have to expand it more. And maybe that's what they see. Maybe we're something out of their peripheral vision. Maybe we're a shadow to them, you know, probably the same exact thing that we are to them. Or sometimes things that are three-dimensional turn into a shadow, you know. Maybe we're watching them slip into that, you know, into their dimension, or, you know, we think we're seeing something three-dimensional and it turns into a shadow. So we're kind of capturing them. Maybe they capture us in the same way. And they say that's why you should have 4 mirrors from Tibet, but I don't think they have to be from Tibet, because they can't hide from in the mirrors somehow. You know, if you have them 4 facing each other, one of the mirrors is going to pick them up. So there's, you know, I think they have an 180-degree advantage, perhaps, you know. avoiding their, being captured. So if you want to really test it, maybe you should get those 4 mirrors facing each other in your room. Try to really identify them.
Right. So they would have like a 720 degree advantage because they can phase in and out or whatever. I don't even think you could put a degree to it.
Oh, boy, I need a calculator. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Daryl, you were the absolute best. Thank you so much. I'm glad you're feeling better. Every day you're sounding more and more yourself. And happy holidays to you. God bless. Thanks for getting better.
Happy birthday to Rohan.
Happy birthday to Rohan as well. Exactly. Thanks for spending your time with us. Thanks for all the amazing stuff you bring to the shows every night. And you're the best. If you want to hang tight here, please do. Just mute up, and you're welcome to stay there and listen to the rest of the show.
Love to.
Thank you very much. Daryl's the best. Daryl in New York. Good stuff as always. All right, so tonight we're still talking about this stuff. What do you think is this shadow biosphere, this shadow biome? It's an odd scientific thing that people don't really talk about, right? Over on, I want to point out over on Rockfin, Denver says this. What's up, Denver? Thanks for hanging out with us. Says there was a great energy in between objects of mass, and that's true. That's true. Like we always talk about us being actual entities of mass. Most of us is still technically empty space, right? And so, well, there's a whole lot of something, charged particles or some or other. Maybe that's the wrong term, holding it all together. I don't know. Pretty wild. But let's do this to bring it all the way back around and to get us into the third hour and off the radio here. Is this, right? So they've got this thing known as the Allegory of the Cave by Plato, okay? And it got me thinking in terms when I started thinking of shadow biosphere, shadow biome. Are there entities that share the same space as us? They're just slightly out of our perception, okay? Maybe they see us, maybe they don't. Maybe they actually perceive us as, again, like I said, maybe orbs, maybe we're the shadow people to them. Who knows? Because, again, being on sort of locked on the let's say, numbskull side of it or the ignorant side of whatever that looks like. I'm the numbskull, by the way. But if you do that, then you can't really. It's all conjecture, right? It's worse than that. It's maybe juice drinking, and that's fine. And that's what we're doing tonight, and that's what we do most nights. But I wanted to point this out: that the nature of reality. We've been talking about this as a human species for a very, very, very long time, and it goes back to this, and probably earlier than this, but all philosophy, in some point, Western philosophy traces back to Plato. All right? Plato. Yeah, that's right. Plato, Aristotle, Socrates, you heard of them? Morons. No, I'm just kidding. Princess Bride reference. But okay. Plato, right? This guy. There you go. Plato's Allegory of the Cave. And this is on the nature of reality. And so this is what I want to point out, is that even though we're so sure with all our scientific measurements and instruments and all the things that we do, right? All the rest of that. Well, what if there's still a whole bunch of things that don't actually trigger our scientific instruments? That's the craziness here. Listen to this, and this is on the nature of reality from Plato. Plato's Allegory of the Cave is one of the most well-known philosophical concepts in history. As such, it only makes sense that numerous filmmakers would try to incorporate this philosophy into their movies. But what exactly is it? And why does it work so well in the context of filmmaking? And by the way, also in radio shows. Because, well, here we are. Here we go. Here we go. Now, this is the actual Allegory of the Cave. I'm going to read this. This is a paraphrase of the entire thing, and it's pretty good stuff. So hang tight if you've never heard this, but listen. This is on the nature of reality. Plato's Allegory of the Cave is a concept devised by the philosopher to ruminate on the nature of belief versus knowledge. The allegory states that there exist prisoners chained together in a cave. Behind the prisoners is a fire, and between the fire and the prisoners are people carrying puppets and other objects. This casts a shadow on the other side of the wall. The prisoners watch these shadows, believing them to be real. Plato posits that one prisoner could become free. He finally sees the fire and realizes the shadows are fake. This prisoner could escape from the cave and discover there is a whole new world outside that they were previously unaware of. This prisoner would believe the outside world is so much more real than that in the cave. he would try to return to free the other prisoners. Upon his return, he is blinded because his eyes are not accustomed to actual sunlight. The chained prisoners would see this blindness and believe they will be harmed if they try to leave the cave. And here's some good examples here in Hollywood and filmmaking. Is The Truman Show is a good example of that. The Matrix, of course, that's another one that everybody knows about, which, by the way, speaking of The Matrix, Derek the Night Stalker has signed on to do a Zeitgeist talk about the new Matrix movie coming up. So that actually airs 12/22/21, which is going to be this coming Wednesday, a couple days from now. And we will talk about it next Monday night to give you a few days to catch up and watch it if you don't want spoilers. Of course, no hard feelings if you join us on the live streams. And don't watch it until you actually watch it, because, well, see the movie first. Don't hear the spoilers from us. But then there's Dark City, there's Cube, there's The Conformist. There's some other ideas here with the allegory, the cave, and it fits this, right? So not only do we have the allegory, the cave, and the shadow people. This is the weirdness here. Shadows on the wall, right? The fire and the puppets and the rest of this stuff. But what about the next thing? What about, again, the nature of the reality when the person escapes, they go out, they come back in and they're blinded because of the sunlight, because they're not used to the world outside of their trap, outside of this cave. Then everybody doesn't trust them anymore. Even though they know a secret that is so mind-blowing, nobody wants to talk to them because they think they may be harmed or the rest of this. So the thing is, right, so after this, well, do we still not live in this cave? Not just with propaganda, but also with, maybe this shadow biome, shadow biosphere. And what I mean is, like, I do appreciate science. It's not that, right? But it's also the thing that gets in the way of it sometimes is the message, is the human hubris. The fact that we think we know probably a ton more than we actually know. And it may not be the scientists themselves. It may be the translation. It may be the media kind of feeding us the information from the scientist, right? Because any good scientist isn't going to say, I know damn well. They're going to kind of say, well, experimentation suggests that, right? That's what a good scientist will say. Not, well, I know damn well, right? That's what a propagandist would say. And so I think we have this disconnect, and why people are just so mistrustful is because of the media. It has, you could probably argue it's a lot more than that, but I don't know. It's very, I don't know. Nature of our reality, the allegory, the cave, the shadow biosphere. I don't know. You tell me. Pretty wild stuff, right? So if you want to be part of the show, we got a few minutes left for you. Looking to hear your thoughts on this. This shadow biosphere, do you think there's actually, like shadow people, do you think there's actually some sort of maybe alternate something right here in the same space as us that just hosts a different sort of life? And back to that original thought, was this shadow biome or shadow biosphere? It's a hypothetical biosphere on Earth. They say microbial, but we're going to take it larger than that, because why not? That would use radically different biochemical and molecular processes than that from from currently known life. All right, so we're talking about having no known observable RNA, DNA, the rest of that stuff, something completely alien to us. And there's a hypothesis that exists right here on Earth with us in the same space. We just haven't learned or acknowledged it yet. So that's what's going on with this. I don't know. I'd like to think that we're a little better off than the allegory of the cave with the shadow puppets on the wall, but seeing what the algorithmic manipulation and all the rest of that from the technocrats, and how nobody in the media wants to tell us the truth about anything. They want to leave out critical details and, really fool us. It seems like we're stuck in the cave, doesn't it? I hate to say it. What's up, Rhoda? Your band coming for you. But it seems like we're stuck in this cave, doesn't it? It seriously seems like we're stuck in this cave, and I don't know what to do other than talk about other possibilities, right? And that's what this show is really about. It's about just kind of considering that the world we live in isn't as it seems. And I don't mean that, we live in the Twilight Zone. I mean, that would be a little weird. But what about living in the Upside Down? I think that's completely fair. And back to that, what Derek brought up a little bit earlier as well, the upside down is that whole, 11 and, right, the Demogorgon coming through the portal and, under the ground at Camp Hero and all that project, the Montauk Project, all the rest of that, right? So there's some evidence to suggest that, I'm not saying that's real, but I don't know. The guy from what's that dude from the Department of Energy said that they're dabbling in other dimensions right now. So I don't know what to think. And I think that's part of the problem here is that they kind of want us to not know what to think. As when I say they, clearly what I mean is just the powers that be, the folks that are trying to keep us in a state of unease about the nature of reality. And to me, that's pretty sinister, right? If you consider why they're trying to do that, it's to confuse us. It's to fool us. It's to keep us from doing what exactly? From changing the world? From I don't know. Like everybody wants to call us a terrorist for thinking for ourselves, right? For considering odd things. I don't think it's that at all. I think it's that the fight is against misinformation, and we get it constantly and all the time. I don't know. So in the end, it doesn't matter what I think. You know what I think because I talk a lot on a microphone, on the radio and stuff all the time. So it's not about that. It has nothing to do with what I think other than to start a conversation. All right? I'm not trying to burn down anybody's religious affiliations because of my convictions. I don't care. I think that, like I said when we started, like I told Night Stalker a couple nights ago, I really do believe that diversity is strength. Unlike propagandists who think it's not, who want to weaponize it, who want to use it as a cudgel for us to hate each other. I think people believing different things is good. And with that, I guess we'll wrap this up and get to the third hour here. But I don't know. There's a lot to this biosphere stuff. I don't know. Again, a lot more questions, not a lot of answers, but that's all right because I'm not in the answers business, or else I would be working with Fox News or something, right? Or CNN. I don't do that. So, well, Monday through Friday, 7 p.m. Pacific, that's when Troubled Minds rules. And thanks for hanging out with us. Thanks for spending your time. I know there's a million things you could be doing. Happy holidays to everybody out there. Happy Monday. Let's be glad. Let's be grateful. Let's not look for a season or a day to be grateful for things. Let's be grateful every day. I'm grateful for you. I hope you're grateful for me, and hopefully together we can make the world grateful. Never mind. I'm not going to say it. All right. As we get out of here, if you're listening to us on Fringe FM, stay tuned for Joe Roop Lighting the Void. If you're listening to us on any other platform, stay tuned for a third hour of Troubled Minds. We're still taking your phone calls, talking about all the rest of this. And as we finish, we'll be back tomorrow night, God willing, at 7 p.m. Pacific. And be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our Troubled Minds to yours, have a great night. All right, special thanks to the folks that called in tonight and helped me out, helped me settle my energy. It was all over the place. It feels good to be back to myself. You're listening to Troubled Minds. If you want to be part of this conversation, we're still talking about this shadow biome, this shadow biosphere. We're talking about life, but not life as we know it, life in some other something. And what is that something? That's the question tonight. Love to hear your thoughts. We're going to take a 2-minute break and come back to take your phone calls if you're interested. 702-957-1037. That's 702-957-1037. You click the Discord link at troubledminds.org and love to hear what you think about this and all the rest. Be right back. Don't go anywhere. If you're still hearing us, we're still going. 2 more minutes, 2-minute break. More Troubled Minds on the way. Be right back. right, welcome back to Troubled Minds. I'm your host, Michael Strange, and we're still talking about this shadow biome, shadow biosphere. What is this about? Is this more Lord of the Rings? Is this more the realm of fiction? Or do you think there's actually something? Do you think there's something to this? Again, back to Plato and the allegory of the cave. If we're living in a particular reality, okay, but it's being projected to us through some sort of lens and not necessarily our own senses, we could talk in terms of that, of course, because the show, the story, completely open-ended, non-linear. Wherever you want to take this, we can go. If you want to turn this into remote viewing at this point, let's do it. That's the whole idea of doing this. I'm not here going to pound my fist and say, no, but I spent my time doing this instead. No, I'd rather hear what you guys think. That's the entire point of doing this whole show, is to find out what you guys believe about this stuff. And not even in terms of like, my conviction belief is this. Just, hey, how about this as an idea? And I think that's some pretty wild stuff here. That's what we're talking about. So the shadow biome, it could be a lot of things, couldn't it? And they say that scientifically, in microbial terms, that it could be an entirely other life form. Entirely. Not even close to what we expect to find here. But maybe something else. Some other sort of, who knows, maybe it could be like a symbiosis type thing where we need them to survive, or maybe they're feeding on us, right? Maybe it could be a parasitic sort of thing. Who knows? And that's the question, right? Like Daryl brought up, and I'm glad she brought it up, Morgellons, right? What about black goo and all the rest of that stuff? I don't know. I think there's a lot here, right? Like, I think in terms of like the shadow biome or the shadow biosphere, if you look at like one of the more obvious, pop culture tropes, it's going to be, or, characters, not really trope, but the character is Venom. Is that right? Venom is like this alien symbiote that is like a shadow entity that will take like a shadow form of, in this case, in Marvel Comics, Spider-Man. And so he's from some alien planet where, you tell me. You tell me. What's up, guys? Reading the chat. Got a little more time to be a little more social here tonight because we're off the radio, just kicking it, doing our thing. And we got a couple calls, looks like. So we're going to go to, let's go, hang tight, Kelly. Let's go to James. I'm not sure he's been here, and then we'll go to you. James, what's up? James of Salcedo Paranormal. Welcome to the show. How are you, my friend?
I'm okay. Thank you for having me.
Aha, pleasure's ours. Go right ahead, man. What do you think about this stuff? You do a paranormal podcast. Do you think there is something with this shadow realm going on here?
I do think there's something, because that's kind of what I wanted to bring up. If you just put in shadow figure in a search engine, and then maybe paranormal or whatever, you'll find that the stories of shadow whatever shape there is, different shapes, but the experiences vary a lot, and it makes me think that I don't know if we can pin down that all these shadow beings are all the same thing. I mean, just in the way some of them are described, some appear to have glowing eyes, some don't. Some appear to be shaped like people. Some appear more like just almost like a negative of an orb, where it's just a shadow sphere or circle. And then some of those have been seen with like tentacles, like I said that a little while back when I called in. I found a story about that. It's just, I think there's a lot of possibilities as to what these could be, including, for all we know, other life forms, and even possibly clusters of these life forms that, for whatever reason, are taking different shapes.
Yeah, I like the idea that the orbs, we talked about this on the Cthulhu show when you called in as well, that maybe the orbs have tentacles.
It's been seen, like at least in a couple stories.
Yeah, like a dark, shadowy orb thing, but it has tentacles. Oh, God, how creepy.
Yeah,
that's wild. Yeah. That's wild, but it seems to link to a lot of things, doesn't it? Not just that paranormal world. It certainly links to, like, again, back to comics with Venom, right? That, I mean, what else is he if he's basically not sort of the like pop culture representation of a shadow biosphere, right? Just in sort of like a more intelligent, large scale. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and if you think about that, I remember, at least from what I remember reading from the early, like from the beginning of the comics, I don't know about currently, but the only way to stop or to basically immobilize or keep the symbiote from doing anything was through sound waves. That was its only weakness, was through certain kinds of sound waves. That was the only way that it could be contained and or separated from whatever it bonded with.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I remember the Tobey Maguire film, right? Was it Tobey? No, it was the other guy, Garfield, where you had to clang the bell, and through some sort of frequency, it would peel him off, the symbiote off of Spider-Man, right?
I think it's probably been done in a few versions, but yeah, definitely Tobey was one of them, I think. Maybe not, but yeah, I mean, it's definitely been done in a few different versions. So, yeah, and then in the comics, it was actually, they would do a lot more crossovers, in the comics, because they could. It was actually someone else that basically is a scientist, one of the people that know the Fantastic Four. It was the Reed Richards, Mr. Fantastic, that really kind of helped figure all that out.
Reed Richards with the Mr. Fantastic. Am I right?
Yeah. Yep.
Yeah. See, I read a comic book once. I swear.
But just getting back to what all the different things these could be. I mean, life forms. Definitely, that's really interesting to me now to think of it that way. That it could be life forms. It could be life forms that are more energy than that are still life forms. They're just different. I also don't think we can discount the other things. The possibility of being maybe even like people have suggested the remote viewing thing. Probably know that could be how certain people do that, or how they appear when they're having an out-of-body experience, when they're astral projecting. But I think there are, different, possibly, there are cases where they appear to be just shadows of spirits of people that have passed on. So I think there's a whole range of what these could be, and it's really hard to say, So yeah, but it's very interesting. I love the connection to possibly science at this point, which is just always really interesting.
Yeah, and so not only that, so in the terms of the shadow biosphere, that's the whole, right, microbial life. It's not DNA, RNA based. It's a whole other thing, right? So we haven't recognized it officially if it exists. But then there's the whole other part that's the shadow biome that was brought up by that Dr. Eric Davis in regard to UFOs, meaning that if they're living in our same space and kind of phasing in and out, that shadow biome means they're here, and we're talking about that dimensionality. We're talking about God knows what. Like even, we've talked about time slips and that whole out of phase stuff. Remember the show we did with that where our on a quantum level, we're kind of constantly out of phase with ourselves even, and the quantum particles are actually time traveling slightly backwards and forwards. It's wild, man. It's wild to consider all this stuff, huh?
Yeah, and that makes me think of what you were saying, how maybe these different things, or us, maybe even just us as a species, maybe that's how maybe we appear as, like you said, shadows to this other dimension or this other place, or even other times or other parallel universes. I mean, it's all. I think it's all possible.
It's all possible. I love it. I love it, James. Great stuff as always. Anything else you got for us, my man?
No, that was it. Just I wanted to point out, just if anyone is really, I don't know, I would just definitely recommend looking into shadow figures of any kind, not just people. I would definitely put in, if you're going to do a search, just look into shadow figures, because I've heard of. I guess I do have a little more. I've heard of, those orbs. Like I said, I've heard of different shapes of animals where it's like basically a shape of a different. I've heard of like basically cats and or. I've even heard of like spiders and a couple different times. It seems like there's just all kinds of things, all kinds of shapes that these things can appear in.
Yeah.
And so we have no idea how to, it's hard to pinpoint I don't think there's ever any one answer. Is, I guess, my other point. Yeah.
Which is amazing. Like the shadow chupacabra. Don't worry about the shadow chupacabra.
Yeah.
Don't worry about that little guy.
No, they'll be just fine.
He'll be just fine. He'll be just fine. Everybody, James here has a podcast called Salcedo Paranormal. He goes 5 nights a week. He live streams and he talks about paranormal stuff. And I think later this week, we were talking about this a little bit last night. I think he's going to touch on shadow people for just a moment. And maybe, just maybe, you'll see some of this stuff in his show. You'll have to peek in to find out. You're the best, James.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, I'm going to definitely cover the whole shadow thing Wednesday. So, yeah.
Right on.
Should be fun.
Right on. You can't get enough shadow people and shadow things and shadow biospheres. I'm not sure he's going to go into the biosphere. He may mention it. We'll see. Check it out. Scroll down. His link is in the description. Salcedo Paranormal. You're the best, James. Always a pleasure. Talk to you a little later on.
Yep, thank you. Have a good night.
You too, man. For good stuff. All right, so we're still taking phone calls considering all the things. What do you think about this? The shadow biome, shadow biosphere? Thanks for being patient, Kelly. Kelly in Colorado. Go right ahead, sir. What's on your mind, my man? Welcome to Troubled Minds. Strap in. Fasten your seatbelts.
Good evening. How's it going?
I'm doing good, man. Thanks for asking. Happy Monday. Happy holidays to you. Go right ahead. What's on your mind?
No, just want to call up, give some follow-ups on what some people have been talking about.
Sure.
So with James, it's those shadow people. Like if you do look up anything like that, well, let's just say shadow people, right, or shadow things. Yeah, they're like people see different things. They've seen if there was a shadow, let's say shadow people type figure. There's ones that have like red eyes, or there's ones that they say that they have. One would look like it's wearing like a trench coat, right? You kind of the outline of it. It's got like the big collar, and it's wearing a hat. So like some type of an older type hat, and then you can see the eyes. So I've heard that too with other people that we had a conversation with some family members I had talking about like this type of this type of the stuff we're talking about right now, kind of like the shadow people. But yeah, it's people have seen some pretty interesting things, or even they had some noises with it. But like with the Night Stalker, he kind of I like where he was kind of going. He kind of stole some of my thunder I was going to bring up with all the with these creatures that could be like in this shadow dome that you're talking about. I kind of would think that it would be like either a parallel universe, or just another something that could be like running with us, along with us, because we all know that human species can only see so much and only hear so much. There's only our range of both is, it's limited. So again, it could be things that, that could be, we would claim it as a shadow, but maybe they're just outside of our line of sight and hearing, Kind of like the interesting thing I was going to bring up was like with those rods that he was kind of talking about. And they're kind of, some people say that, I've watched a big long video on it, and where somebody were talking about it. They were getting into it, but, they kind of led back to where, somebody filmed this one where they were trying to, it was at night, and they were trying to, bring in these things out. Well, they looked like they filmed one, and they were trying to say that it was an insect, like if there was a moth. It was just the way it was a camera effects. But there's other ones that they've filmed, like they were doing parajumping in this cave in Mexico, right? And in there, that film is which is actually pretty interesting, because it is, people say it could be birds or insects. But with this one, it shows all three. It shows those rods, insects, and birds that are all flying around at the same time. But it seems like the rods can go, like they're disappearing and reappearing in some spots within the video, which could be what we're talking about now, where these things can pop in and out, where you could see them, but you they come and go. Sometimes they only can be filmed on video without seeing, in the naked eye because they're moving so fast. But again, also, you could go into with like UFOs. For example, there's some that are claiming that, like in the way they're flying or where they're sitting in the sky, they look more like an animal. Kind of like with tentacles and everything that you guys were talking about earlier. Or it was just, like for example, I give you this one. Me and Michelle, we lived in San Diego. It was in a place called Imperial Beach, which was close down by the southern border of TJ. It was kind of like 2 towns away, but it was a long beach stretch where you could kind of walk and, you could see the border right there. But one night we were sitting outside and we were just having a bonfire, just me and her. We're kind of enjoying the night. But in the sky, it was probably about 500 feet in the air. We see this thing, and the wind, at the time, what's interesting was the wind was blowing like in or towards us. So it was blowing from the south to the north, kind of like a southwesterly or southeasterly direction. And when we seen this thing in the sky, it looked like a cloud per se. It was more. It had a shape. Well, it had the look of a cloud. It looked, like a, I don't know, kind of misty looking, like a cloud, But it was a circle shape, kind of like a donut. It had a hole in the middle, but it was moving and it was moving from north to south towards TJ, over our head. But it wasn't like solid looking. This thing looked like I don't know, man. I would even. You ever seen that the videos of like their space and they have that tether, and you see those things that are flying in the background? Kind of looks like a donut. It had a hole in the middle. Those are kind of.
Yep, seen it.
No, just with that too, it was kind of like those things too. They don't look like they're they're part a solid state anyway. They look more of a I don't know, man, how you would even explain it. It was kind of like, for me, like I said, it kind of looked like smoke or a cloud, but it was moving in a direction and it didn't stop. It was going against the wind, and it was like something that was alive. Kind of how some people would, you hear some UFO people talk about, when they were saying that, you hear these people that say, they're coming out and telling secrets or whatnot. But what's interesting is they're saying biome, they could like phase in and out. So, I mean, is it like a shadow thing, or is it something that's in our dimension, but we can't, like out of our peripheral where we can see it, our colors.
Yeah, like sort of outside the human lens, so to speak, something like that. Yeah. Like we can't perceive it. Yeah, that's amazing stuff. Hey, are you going to hang out, Kelly?
Yeah.
Okay, please let's do this. Jennifer's on the phone. She's been waiting about 10 minutes plus now. So let's go to her, and then we'll come right back to you after that. She climbs up into a frozen attic to call us because it's the only place she gets a clear reception. So let's go to her, and then we'll get back to you. Is that cool?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay, hang tight. Don't go anywhere, Kelly. Back to that amazing thought. Let's go to Jennifer. Thanks for being patient with us, Jennifer. Welcome to Troubled Minds. Go right ahead. You're on Troubled Minds with Mike and Kelly. What are your thoughts on a shadow biosphere?
Hey, yeah, this is an awesome topic. I don't mind at all having had weight at all. Not at all.
Thank you.
But,
Thank you.
That's everything's been amazing tonight, what everybody's saying. And it does kind of seem like with this shadow biosphere thing, it seems like it's calling attention to the battle between the light and the darkness continuously going on that we've always heard about. And if you look at the very etymology of it, it's really interesting about what they're calling it, the shadow biosphere. And that word, shadow, it comes from shade, from umbra, from Latin, and it means basically like spirits or ghosts. That's what umbra means. So they're kind of talking about like a ghost realm or like a realm of spirits when they say shadow or shade. in the oldest sense of the word anyway. And when you think about what that would mean, it made me think of a thing I was reading about a while ago, and it was talking about the references to God in the Old Testament. And it's really strange and not controversial at all, but it was referencing to God being described as dwelling in darkness, as God being a manifestation of darkness. And a lot of people haven't heard that, and I think that's really an odd point to bring in. Like Solomon in Kings says the Lord has said that he would dwell in a dark cloud. And then you have another reference in Psalms saying that he made darkness his covering and his canopy around him. And then another reference in Psalms, it says clouds and thick darkness surround him. And in the tent that they would made to hold the Ark of the Covenant, they would light it with candles, even in daylight. And it was described that when the presence of God was felt, it wasn't like what people kind of expect it to feel like. It's more like the feeling of like when you've seen a ghost. Like there was a feeling of dread or terror almost, like the fear of God in you, that kind of thing. And they had those candles because even in the daylight, I wonder, but it would come in like a dark cloud, this presence of God that they're describing and that they were following and traveling around with. And it's really strange, too, when you think about a little bit more on that. They would have to light the room, because when God would come into the room, it wasn't like you'd expect it was a bright light. It was like the opposite. It was the effect of the primordial darkness or something. And so I wondered about the connection with that in this shadow biosphere. And then, Crowley describes it, too, when he's dealing with any kind of spirits, that, when he was doing his big to-do about contacting his archangel in Scotland, he would have to light candles in the daylight, too, because the room would become so dark, even in the sunlight. And you have this really strange thing going on with these shadow people, where the references to that they don't cast a shadow, and people talking about that. And we mentioned that before when we were talking about invisibility and how that was a key component, that you couldn't have a reflection on the object and it couldn't cast a shadow. And those two key things come in a lot of times with these beings where it seems like they are somehow going in and out of dimension. And the darkness itself wouldn't have a shadow. Someone mentioned that in the chat, or I think something to that effect. That's what they were saying. That a shadow itself couldn't cast a shadow. And so if they are this darkness in a sort of way. But then what's another thing about this God, though, about God, being described as the Lord of hosts. And the word host there is really interesting. If you think about it, it seems like you're the host of Troubled Minds and you host a guest and everything, but it's also played up to in the idea of like virus and parasites and hosts. And the Lord of hosts, it's like we're in this physical body and we're hosting the spirit, but what else, we're hosting other things too. And this plays into something else with this idea, like you mentioned, well, it's really interesting, but like you mentioned venom and the symbiote. And it's really, the story about that is really, well, one thing, virus itself, the word virus, and a virus is not alive. It's not a living organism. It's another, it's noticed by, you can see it under the microscopes, but not all viruses can even be seen. There are some viruses that are so microscopic that they aren't even seen, and the human body is covered with 90% of what's called viral dark matter. And it's like they don't know what it is, and they're calling it viral dark matter because they think that so it must be something to do with these virus organisms. But the word virus, the etymology of the word virus, basically means venom, as in like a snake venom. And
oh, snap.
In the case of, check that out. The word virus, the etymology of it, is basically like a goo of venom, like as in snake venom. And that's really odd. But when you think about what happens, and a lot of times when we see people doing this thing with the black goo, like I think Billie Eilish did a video where she's drinking black goo and she changes. And you see that with the symbiotes too. And it's a way, like in the story of Venom, it's a way for the god of the symbiotes null to still have influence because, you know, he's a primordial God that was in the darkness and was disturbed by the light of creation. And so when he came to see what it was, he was really disturbed that, you know, this had happened. So he started to try to stop it. What's really weird about that is UV light being used to kill microorganisms and things like that. And another reference there was the sun.
Yes.
You know, and it's really strange. And you can see the manifestation of these beings when they consume a host. Like you see it with venom, with the symbiotes. And you see it, too, in the references of the black goo. When they drink the black goo, they change and they get all... They're changed somehow by it. The same thing happens with viruses, too. Like when somebody gets sick, there's no doubt. You can see that something has come over them. And what's really strange, too, even with disease, like dementia, Parkinson's, Alzheimer's, things that are just like a disease. The people describe, and it's a phenomenon called FP, and it's feeling of presence, where those people who are under the effects of that disease sometimes see dead relatives or have a feeling of a presence around them. And I don't know. And you can't, it is true that the biggest thing that people fear is being overtaken by some kind of ill health of any kind. It's not just the angel of death, you know, awaiting us all, because we can all accept a peaceful death, but we don't want to die in a terrible way from some kind of sickness, you know. And I think that's always been a fear in humanity. And even in the old sanctified places, they would purify it with what? Like frankincense, myrrh, sage, things like that. All of those herbs have antimicrobial properties. In fact, sage, what can get into crevices and nooks and crannies that you can't get to when cleaning. And it kills like 96% of bacteria and microbes in the air. So it purifies the air of not just evil spirits, but like technically viruses or bacteria as well by the properties of the herb. And John the Baptist would wear a girdle of wormwood. Well, wormwood is an anti-parasitic, keeps worms away. And you think about the consciousness of these viruses. What do they think? You know, it's not alive, but it has a motivation and it has a drive to exist. What's really weird about that is we can see what the drive is when it manifests, only when it manifests in its host. And you can see the very intention of it and how it spreads itself and the influence it wants to affect upon the world. So there's this very strange thing going on. It's not just this battle of darkness, but there's something also wanting to be presented too through this, you know, like Ebola and leprosy and all that stuff. And I think I was going to mention something else, and then that was it. But just about there.
Yeah, you're like let me consult my notes.
I'm just thinking just about how they manifest them. Anyway, I think okay, yeah, this last thing. So, like, if you're covered in 90% viral dark matter, you're literally cloaked in darkness, and we can't even tell. How can it be? You know, like, how can that be that it's all around us, like we're saying, it's this shadow biosphere that's, oh, yeah. Okay, so I heard something, too, about a Pandora virus. They say they resurrected this Pandora virus that was 34,000 years old from 2014, and scientists were really excited. It was the biggest virus they'd ever discovered, or one of the biggest viruses they'd ever discovered, calling it like a mega virus, basically. It's just this. The virus itself was much larger than what they typically see under the telescope. But they resurrected, you know, that's how they describe it, a 34,000-year-old virus. And you think about like Azazel, how he was, if you think about these fallen angels or any of these beings being resurrected, what would they be? What would their effect be? Like, if you think about the plagues during the times of Moses and everything.
Yeah, sorry, I muted myself. I'm dogging the squeaker. Yeah, pretty wild with this stuff. There seems to be a lot of connections. Like, this is not just some sort of a fly-by-night sort of a troubled mind situation. There seems to be enough connections to where you scratch your head, right? And consider, maybe. Yeah, Yeah, great stuff. Holy smokes. You had so much there, I'm not even sure how to tackle and a lot of that. But a lot of the etymology, the cloaked in darkness, this battle between dark and light, it's... are you writing any books recently? Because I want to buy them. Are you there? Test 1, 2. Looks like she disconnected. Okay. If everybody wants to give Jennifer a follow, please do. Link in the description. You can find it straight down. And yeah, good stuff. Wow. A lot there. Very, very good stuff. And holy smokes, I'm sure you heard some of that. Kelly, thanks for being patient. Thanks for she was describing last night how it was freezing in the attic, but she climbs into the attic to call in. She didn't say that, but I put 2 and 2 together. So just, I just wanted to be, if we could be gentlemen, but wow, I don't even know where to begin. Did you hear some of that stuff?
Yeah, I was kind of going to go in that direction anyway with, she put it in a little bit better perspective, but like if you go into, okay, like we're going to go into 2 different things. I'm going to combine them together to where it was kind of where she was talking about in the biblical sense. Okay, so you have David Icke, and I know everybody knows who David Icke is, right? And he talks about like the reptilians and stuff. Okay, so he also talks about like how these things are kind of like a shadow people as well. And the reason why I kind of bring that up is because I also go back into the Emerald Tablets of Thoth when he talks about the shadow people that moved around in Atlantis, right? And he says that these things were, he called it from a different vibration is what he called it. Now with what James, I believe it was, Salcido, he was saying, like in the shows, let's say it was Hollywood type things, right? When they were talking about how the parasitic thing was attached, which was what is it? Symbiotic. What is it called?
A symbiote. Symbiote, right?
Yeah, from Spider-Man.
Yeah, Venom.
Okay, so you got Venom, right? Let's say, and that bell, which ringed it off, which kind of actually pulled him off, right? It separated him from Spider-Man. And what's interesting is in the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, he talks about how these things can be controlled, actually even trapped within inside of a body. So these things, when they kill another human, they were used to kill another human and take their shape or their form, they would actually use that body more or less, to take that shape or form to even become or even like attach itself to that person. And he said that you could use a vibration or frequency to lock that thing in the body, and then when the veil was lifted, is what he called it. And so it's like a veil, like this is what we're talking about. If we can't see anything that's all around us, it's a veil. So he says that when the veil is lifted, they were serpent-headed. So that, to me, when you take it with David Icke, and David Icke, he talks about with these things, they're parasitic, that they like latch onto you. They're all about the emotions of the human spirit. Okay, so if they want it, they always want it to where, depression, when these things latched onto you, they're, the depression or, suicidal thoughts or anger, stuff like that. They are like an animal, a parasitic animal that thrives off of that thing. David Icke kind of talks about with these reptilians. And what's interesting with all that too, that's where I add in, the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, is how he used to talk about, and this is ancient, right? These things have been around for who knows how long, who knows if they could even see him back then. But yeah, the whole parasitic thing is pretty crazy too, because like even in, I'll give you, there's some Japanimation, right? And some that they had. That where it shows that these things, they look like giant, like monsters or something. They were climbing on the back. You can't see them. You wouldn't see them per se, but like through that Japanimation, they showed them look like they were weird monsters that were like attached. They would sit on top of your head or like on the top of your shoulders. When that's where people said they get headaches or they're really sore on their neck. And it goes with like Jennifer was saying too. If that's the case, it's going to wear down the body from a physical standpoint, which actually going to allow the body to be fully diseased. Get like different type of cancers or other weird diseases that are out there. Like maybe on the surface of your skin, or even a spiritual type thing, or it's going to affect you in that type of way. So yeah, I mean, again, it's a type of these things are a type of, I would say an animal. Maybe it is an animal, but it's an animal of a of a shadow realm or something that we cannot see. Again, that's outside of our spectrum. Which everybody's thoughts and ideas about that is pretty awesome too, because again, I always believe that too, because I've seen a lot of stuff that we consider like a shadow person, or it was actually running around our whole planet. I've talked about it too on a different show before, but
exactly.
Man,
wild stuff.
These things are about.
Wild stuff. Let's I was just about to go to Jennifer. She just called back in, I think, to say goodbye, and just going to go to the call, and she dropped off. So Jennifer, if you're out there listening, thanks for calling. Sorry for the drop off there. I'm not sure what happened, if it was your phone or my phone, but she got cut off just before the end. Great stuff. She called back, and I didn't get to it fast enough. So sorry about that. But yeah, always good stuff. So much so that. Yeah, wow. Like I need a couple hours and to collect my thoughts and write some notes to come back after that. That's the like I always say, the troubled mind's secret weapon is just that you never know, right? You never know kind of the way people's minds work and some of the connections that can be made. Pretty amazing stuff. So yeah, thanks for calling back, Jennifer. Sorry I didn't get back to you quick enough. All good. She said sorry, my internet dropped. Okay, so we're fine. Okay, so I don't know. I think with a lot of this, interestingly, did you catch when she said, when Jennifer called as well, that there was that by some accounts that when God came into the room, they had to light it, right? Talking about the Temple of Solomon and the Holy of Holies and the Ark of the Covenant, is that when God came in, it wasn't a lightness; it was more of a darkness, and they'd have to actually light the room up, right? That's pretty wild. And I think Tam Bam took off because she considered that calling God evil. I don't think that's it at all. I think it's just considering that if God's all the things, he would also have this nether energy in him. And I don't mean nether energy being negative. I just mean it as being, if God rules all the things, or whatever this entity is, clearly there's going to be like the neon and that, weird UV sort of light as well associated. I don't know. Pretty wild stuff, huh?
Yeah, for me, okay, that's the Christian God. Okay, now what's weird is what she was referring to within the Old Testament. Now, the interesting thing about that is, too, for me, is, again, if you go back, that's why I go back into time in the history, right? Okay, so if we're talking, between these two books have been written from the Emerald Tablets of Thoth, and then you call what they would call the Holy Bible, right? So if you're talking and these reptilian things, they can shape shift, they can, and from what Thoth talks about is they killed all the leaders and then took over their place, ruled in their place, whether they'd be, preachers or whatnot, and so if you listen to the stories, like I said, in the Bible and stuff, they got some pretty weird stuff where they're trying to say that God, like that, for example, right? It was darkness that came, right? And it was kind of like scared the hell out of you. It wasn't light. But yet, when they talk about the devil, right, or, his real name, right, he was what? The light bringer. He was the bringer of light. He was the opposite of exactly what they're saying.
That's right. Right. Lucifer is the light bringer. You are correct. That's right.
Yeah. For me, when I look at that shit, I almost look at it as like, okay, so the stories in those things, I go back with the Sumerian, right? But when I go in forward a little bit more into time, it's like these things corrupted whatever the knowledge was passed down inside the, like, you know, inside the likes of like the Torah, the Holy Bible, and the Quran. You know what I mean? There, it was manipulated somewhere in time where these reptilians or these things that we can't see that's outside of our spectrum that are like vampires that want, you know, the downfall of human race, that's where it got blended and mixed and where it's wrong. Because it's weird. When you read something like that, that's what I'm saying. When she brought that up, Jennifer brought that up, I was like, you know what, it's the truth. Because every time they talked about, like, the seeing of God, it wasn't like, you know, or, you know, it was always like a darkness. But what's crazy about that, and when you were just talking about, too, there was a guy, I can't remember his name, it was, he writes a lot of books, too, but he took ayahuasca one time. And when he took that drug, he said that where he went was like, it was like, he said the beginning of, like, life or, like, time. Like, it was like, but it was all, like, dark matter. It wasn't, like, light. But even dark is light. That's the thing about it. So when you're talking about, you know, stuff like that, it's pretty weird, man. I don't know. That's why I always question everything. And that's why when I had my show, that's the name of it. I used to always call it Always Question, because you know, it's always everything that seemed it was either contradicting each other, or you can tell it was rewritten somewhere and to throw you off. You know what I mean? But yeah, this is I like this conversation about this whole parallelogram here.
Yeah, that's what it seems to be, right? And I think that in terms of, well, just life as we know it, we miss this a lot. We miss the conversation in terms of, right, people want to say little green men, people want to say ghosts, right? But this type of thing is completely different. It's in the realm of, well, it's here, but it's not here. Like you described, the human senses miss it because that part of the visible light spectrum, we can't see it. We just can't see it. Like we have things that can pick it up, but we can't see it. And so it's wild, man. It's wild. Crazy stuff here. I don't know. Back to that, like you were saying, like you were talking about, Night Stalker brought up the rods and the jellyfish in the sky. I wonder, right? Like if that's the same sort of thing we're talking about, this shadow biosphere sort of situation, like these things could be huge, right? Because remember, we're talking about that guy with the rings of Saturn, right? He was like with a telescope spotting like these jellyfish in the sky, right? As he described them, but they seemed to be maybe phasing in and out of that visible light spectrum. So I don't know. Maybe these things are huge. Like not just like, you know, like I said, maybe the shadow chupacabra halfway in jest. But what if these things are gigantic, right? Like back to that, you know, primordial old ones, maybe, right? Like that sort of darkness. You know what I mean?
I mean, yeah, that could be. I could see that too, because again, you know, animals can be all kinds of sizes. So we can even say it could be the size of a whale, you know, or even bigger. You know, we just don't know unless we can find that type of light spectrum where you can shoot out and see it. And, you know what I mean? And like, I believe there was a guy that was it was a couple guys, and they were at the university. I think it was Australia. And man, I have to find that again. But yeah, they were talking about looking at light spectrums like that, and where they could say that, you know, when they were, man, what were they doing? I can't remember what it was, but they were like saying that they could see different alien species or whatever by some kind of a light, folding light or something like that. But yeah, it's using some weird new light system that he had, where it was, you know, because you can do a lot of stuff now with lasers. You know, lasers can actually bring out a lot of, you know, the spectrum that where we can't see. You know, because you can adjust those lasers to, you know, different wide spectrum, or you can bring it down to, you know, a beam to where it's more powerful, obviously. But yeah, I mean, I don't know, man. I would say you could probably even bring them all out with your frequency, you know, like, for example, like I said, when those guys were jumping in that, I don't know if you've seen it with those rods flying by, these guys were doing like parajumping off of this it's a giant hole. It's a cliff that goes down in the cave. They were doing it in Mexico. But when they were screaming, every time they scream and they were jumping, these rods would come out. So it's like almost an echo vibration throughout that, jumping down inside there that like kind of attract these things to come out. Because first you would just see like birds and insects, but then when they were jumping and screaming, that's when the echo was really loud. Maybe that echo response is what kind of broke these things out, so you could be able to see them. But again, in those videos, they were like phasing in and out, like, you could see it like jump. It would jump like in the video, like, on the screen, it looked like 2 inches, but, I'm pretty sure it's a couple feet. But then they would show back up and then disappear again. So I don't know, man. These things, I would say, it's kind of like what Tesla was saying, and it's just something he's always thinking. He says, if you want to know about the universe, it's energy, frequency, and vibration.
Yeah, that's pretty wild. And, who knows? I think that's what this is all about, is that the whole who knows. And I love it. I love it, man. This is what this has always been about. It's like, well, what the hell's really going on out there? And is it something to do with any of the rest of this? Wild stuff, man. That you can think of. I know. So Kelly here is our actual Anunnaki expert. He's been talking about the Lost Book of Enki and the Anunnaki for a long time on the show. We've done shows just specifically on that topic with him. Is there anything you can think of in terms of like the shadow biome, or like sort of a shadow maybe realm in that Anunnaki story in any capacity at all?
Well, like I was saying, okay, so like with Thoth, right? Thoth is known as, okay, his original name was Nigazita, and he was Enki's son. And then when he passed down through the pantheons, through like Egypt and, before Egypt, like they said, it was the time before Egypt, and it was, what was it called? It was.
I'm with you. I'm right. It's on tip of my tongue.
But okay, so that time before him, that's when he was known as Thoth, right? And then he went to Egypt, and then from Egypt, that's where he was the cam and stuff. He was teaching about alchemy and separating from his body and actually running the universe or knowing the universe, and that's where he said he could he cheated death, and he became Hermes Trismegistus and stuff like that. But inside that, it's not an Anunnaki, but he is known as Nigazita, which was in Enki's son. And in there, that's where I was saying, he talks about these shadow people that he said these shadow beings that were running around in Atlantis, back in Atlantis, and he said that they would kill the rulers of like the humans, like the leaders, let's say of a clan or the king or something, and they would kill them and then rule over men as that person. But he said in there, that's what I'm saying. It's in Tablet 8, the Keys of Mystery, if anybody wants to look at it. And in there, it's probably like the third paragraph down before you turn the page, and that's when he talks about where these things were of another, he calls it of another vibration, is what he calls them. And that they were, once they were, it was a blood ritual. That's a whole nother thing, too. Like the whole blood letting and the blood ritual thing goes back many generations, where all that stuff, it goes in there. But he talks about, like I was talking earlier, that these were shadow creatures, and then when they were like he says, what blew my mind is when he says when the bell is lifted, they're serpent headed when the bell is lifted, and they come from a different vibration. Is when they were actually brought here through man, were trying to gain great knowledge in the great cycles of time, but they fucked up because they couldn't get rid of them until like the people that knew. Instead of tell these people that knew like dark magic and light magic, they have to know both, and that's the only way they could trap them inside that body. And then when they could lift that veil, they could see that they were like to me, it was a reptilian. That's what he's talking about. And when he's saying serpent-headed, or a Naga, you know, what they would call like in from India and stuff, you know,
right.
or dragons from China, stuff like that, or the flying serpent god of South America,
Quetzalcoatl.
Yeah, but things, all these little paradigms, they just match up too much, because you have like even like all these old statues of like these reptilian guys, or like from Japan. He's like, it looks like in a Japanese judo gi. He's sitting down and he's got a reptilian head. The ones from Iraq, where they found those ones, they look like reptilian. All the drawings, all their gods. I mean, it's just too weird that not to say that these things, that there's no connection to it. For me, anyway. I mean, that I keep reading this over and over, and you just keep looking at these new stuff that everybody's pulling out of these museums, and check this one out. Oh yeah, this one looks like a reptilian too, or these. And from Mexico, it shows like this guy. He looks like a reptilian face, and he's flying around on this. Oh man, it looks like a flying skateboard or some shit. It's just weird looking. Like, why would they make something like that if they're not seeing that? You know what I mean?
Yeah, well, and there seem to be a lot of connections as well. Good stuff. Thanks for circling back on that for me. I appreciate it. Who knows? I don't know. Like back to the whole, do we live in the upside down, in the sense that there's the whole Lucifer, the light bringer, like Jennifer was describing, the light there, the Anunnaki. We've got these jellyfish in the sky, like visible light spectrums. I mean, there's a whole lot of stuff here that, science, magic, right? It's that whole bit, that whole conversation back to the beginning of all this is, if we don't understand it, then we do know what? We know some of the things. Yeah, man, amazing stuff. Thanks for that Hermes Trice. What's it called? I always mess it up. But yeah, all of that stuff, man. Like it seems like there's a giant like circular connection here, right? It just I don't know. I think pretty kind of no matter how deep you dig in, left, right, sideways, it all seems to lead back to a lot of common themes.
Yeah. Yeah, so it's, and for you, it's Hermes Thrice-Megistus. So it's the thrice is 3 times.
Right. He was resurrected 3 times. Right. I remember. Yep. I remember what it was. I just don't ever remember the exact spelling of it, so I mess it up in my head when I try and say it.
Yeah, man, it's hard too. Like, when I was trying to when we started learning all this stuff too, man, trying to get with Michelle, get lost too, because like a lot of these names through like the Sumerian pantheon, the Egyptian, I mean, they're like almost sound the same, they look the same. It's like she gets lost too. Even the names of because it's weird. Some of the names of the towns that they built, like and like these other ones, all right, and all these ancient temples and like all the planets, they're renaming them after like their old kings, their old, like their king, and then the king, the wife's king, or the king's wife, the queen, and then their children, and then like whoever was a good ruler. So it's weird. It's like all these planets that they have all renamed, or even like the cities that they named are all. It's the same, but it's you have to understand, like they're just renaming it because of their leader at one time was a great man, so it's kind of like what the Greeks did, like everything was, all the cities at one time were like, I remember some of the cities, they were all like, named the same, but, or from a king or something. So, it's something that's just like always been passed down through history where, it's just repetitive. So, but yeah, man, this is a pretty cool, interesting topic tonight because, again, we just don't know what's out there, man. We can't see everything. We sure the hell can't hear everything. Our spectrum is only a certain limit. It's if we could only see what dogs and birds and everybody else could see. I know cats and dogs see some weird shit.
Yeah, but that would be a start. But that still wouldn't be within like the actual like full spectrum of everything. It's pretty wild. Yeah. Lazy Guy X says in the chat, in the beginning, God said, "Let there be light." So we were born from darkness. That's a nice way to kind of wrap this all up, actually, because that's what we're talking about, aren't we? That shadow world, that shadow biome, that darkness, where without darkness there can be no light, can there?
Yeah, that's true.
Absolutely.
But it's always light that will take away the darkness, because even like I said before, if you go by spectrums and everything else, darkness is like different. And, that's where scientists are trying to figure out what's up with this dark matter. You know, 'cause, they think that now there might be coming from black holes, where it's actually kind of pushing that stuff around, because nothing can escape a black hole. So not even black matter, dark matter.
Exactly, and we'll get to that, the rest of that as well, because they keep having new theories for what dark energy and dark matter actually are. So that's changing. It seems like it's changing almost every single day. So it's wild stuff, man. It's wild stuff. Primordial black holes and all the rest of that. It seems like too much to the chagrin of our good friend Derek out there, or much to his joy, actually, that we have. We can lead everything back to the old ones, can't we? Primordial black holes. Oh, geez, so crazy. Kelly, you're the best. We're about to wrap this up. What else you got for us, my friend? Again, no hurry. Not going to twist your arm here, just to let you know.
No, man, that's it. I just want to kind of add on to some of the other awesome callers that were in tonight, or as usual as every night. But yeah, man, this is. I'm glad we all do this, because these type of topics need to be talked about. Where science doesn't even want to try to talk about it, or if they do, it's some kind of they just blow it off. And it's just we're not here to fit into their little paragram. We're here to do our own. So. Exactly.
I don't need somebody to tell me I'm doing a good job, right? Like, ignore the haters. Just keep on trucking. Keep doing what we do. And Kelly, you're the best. You've been around for a long time, the longest time. You're one of the original troubled minds, and I appreciate you very much. Tell Michelle we said hi. Happy holidays. Happy Monday. Go get them, brother. You're the best.
You too, brother. All right. Have a good night.
Thanks a lot. You too. All right. There it is. As we finish, this is the way this show works, right? Like I always say, it's the truth. Is that me? If we didn't get calls, like this is what would happen, right? This is, just hear me out for just a second. I'm gonna ramble for just a sec. Well, I ramble constantly, but let me just ramble for a little bit longer, let's say. But if this show just never got calls, it would never kind of like broke through to that. I just shortened the show, right? Because you can only say so much, by yourself. You can only say so much. You can only consider all the things, and then without repeating yourself 10 times, you can only say so much. So you see what's going on here. You see, once you get people jumping in here and describing their idea of where we begin this whole thing, it blows up. It blows up. Like, go back and listen. Like, literally, go back any time in the last 6 months and just play a show. Play a random show. I mean, you were here tonight, so I don't have to tell you guys. But it's pretty wild that we're able to just kind of toss an idea out there and get amazing feedback from people that are on the same wavelength of, that maybe juice, considering what may be, right? And it's incredible. It's a good thing. It's one of those things. It's a very special thing. And let's hope we can make this last as long as possible, because I'm having a hell of a time learning from all you guys. I'm having a hell of a time just trying to come up with new things, new and interesting and exciting things to talk about every day. I'll tell you what, it's not easy in that realm. But the way you guys just kind of pick up and back me up and just come with just spitting hot fire every night, it's humbling. And so I want to say thank you. You guys know who you are. If I list names, I'll leave people out. But holy smokes. Yeah, there you go. Penny's got it right. It's been quite a journey, Mike, over the past 3 years. And 100%, we're in this weird spot of almost succeeding, if you can believe that, right? It's like, it's so bizarre that maybe all the search terms are out there. Maybe the Spotify algorithm's pressing us finally. We're getting leaps and bounds following on YouTube. Like, people are finding us all over the damn place, not to mention people on the Paranormal app and other places on radio. It's pretty wild. And exciting things coming, by the way. we had our trial run of like radio syndication, but a new thing is on the way, and so let's share that in the chat. I don't think I've actually done this live on a show. I just kind of linked it in the Discord, which, by the way, if you haven't actually been on the Discord, this is the time to get your ass in there and come say hi to the Discord, because there's a whole lot of things going on, a whole lot of folks sharing great ideas, 24 hours a day. It's literally all over the damn place. So I'm going to put this up so you guys can see what I'm talking about. This is the Fringe late night. So we're Fringe has been noticed, and there's some people trying to press us into well, let's say into actual late night radio to compete against the likes of Coast to Coast and guys like that, right? There's more names you can put in there, but there you go. You want a radical, bizarro picture of me? You got one, but that's what this looks like. I'm going to link this if you guys want to check it out. But this is where's this headed? That's myself. That's Ryan Gable. That's Joe Roop in the middle. And check it out if you want the link. I'm going to drop it in there, and you can check it out. But yeah, this is it feels like this show is on the verge of blowing the F up. And there it is. More down here. There you go. There's the Michael Strange. We got the Joe Roop, and we got the Ryan Gable business, and the radio clock, and the whole thing. So it's this is on the verge. So here's the thing: if you guys want to help, if you guys want to actually help in terms of maybe pressuring your local radio station, just call them up and say, hey, have you guys heard of this Fringe late night? They're doing this, and send them this link. That link I just dropped in the chat, and it has all the contact information. And this is the way you get on real radio. So just FYI, it's coming. We've been noticed, and it's the three-legged dog is Ryan Gable, Joe Roop, and Michael Strange at this point. So just want to say none of this happens without all the rest of you guys, and I appreciate that very much. Like I said, blowing up my brain every night. Challenging me to come up with new and interesting topics every night, and it's good stuff. So thank you. Yes, it's a little bit of an older picture, and there it is. So just letting you know. But I feel like when you're pushing a mountain up a mountain, which was the term that actually Frank gave to me before he left. It feels like we're pushing a mountain up a mountain. It feels like we've come to the crest, and you know what that means. You know what that means? That means there's a downside, and the downside means extreme velocity. That's what it means. So anyway, there you go. And so we are able to be syndicated in the sense of call your local radio station and say, hey, once you put these guys on the radio, people need to listen to this stuff. And there we go. So as we finish this up, thank you again to everybody. You guys know who you are. Each and every one of you out there listening, literally the most important thing here is your time and your energy. Your time and your energy. And what I mean by that is that you could be doing 10 million other things right now, right? You really could, but you're here with us. And I'm honored by that. I'm blessed by that. And I think it's a blessing for all of us because we built a really great thing together. So thank you guys, each and every one of you, for all that. Happy holidays. Let's get the hell out of here. Let's do it, shall we? Let me make sure we don't have a wayward J. And all right, we're out. We're about to get the hell out of here. Anything else, Kelly, before we cut out of here, or Daryl? Gonna play some music and do a thing?
Here.
I heard you. What was that?
Let's get out of here.
Let's get the fuck out of here. All right, let's do it. Let's smash the button. Let's do it. All right, let's do it. Playing it. You guys can hear. I want to smash the button so you'll hear a little echo on yourselves, but you'll hear the music. Let's do it. Let's get the hell out of here. Let's get the hell out of here. All right, you know the drill, right? You guys are the secret weapon of this show, and getting together and talking about this is wild. It's unprecedented. It's not radio-like at all. Well, I kind of don't care because we're different. We're a different animal, as you can tell. Maybe this animal, this radio animal, comes from the nether sphere, whatever the fuck that means. And, well, as we finish, yeah, there you go. There you go. Thumbs up. thumbs ups into things. I appreciate that very much. Spread the word. If you like the show, spread the word. If you want to help, there's a few ways. Patreon is one. Rockfin, you can sub up another. Twitch, sub up another. We do new shows on Twitch exclusively, and then they go to the podcast feed after that. Also, if you don't want to spend money but you love the show, just spread the word. Listen to us on the podcast feed. That would be Spotify, that would be iTunes, that would be Stitcher, that would be any place, Podcast Addict, whatever you prefer. If you listen to us on those platforms, pennies come my way as well. Boost the show up. Again, as everything grows, we get better and better equipment. We get better radio stuff. I can fix this webcam garbage going on. There's all kinds of stuff happening, right? So, well, thank you for being part of this. Thanks for hanging out with us. Like I said, I'm blessed. I'm honored. Happy holidays. Please remember that we don't need a season to tell us to be grateful. We can be grateful 24 hours, 365 days. And let's do that. So let's get the hell out of here. Kelly, as he called it, let's get the fuck out of here. Let's go. As we finish, it goes a little something like this. Monday through Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific. We'll see you guys tomorrow night, God willing. And for now, yeah, we're on tomorrow. We'll be on all week, Penny. Monday through Thursday, 7 p.m. Pacific. I'm just having my moment with all the fantastic people that waited all this time to hear me ramble just a little bit more. So, we'll be back tomorrow night, 7 p.m. Pacific. Monday through Thursday, regular week, even though Christmas, we're still doing our thing. We'll be back tomorrow with more amazing stuff, hopefully. And as we finish, it goes like this. Be sure, be strong, be true. Thank you for listening. From our troubled minds to yours, have a great night.